Hello and welcome back to the DF Retro Super Show. I'm John Lindemann. This is episode number 6, and we've got a great show for you today. But first, let's introduce this week's panel. First of all, the man himself is back. Coury Carlson, Mr. CES.
Mr. CES. I saw you put a comment saying, I was actually helping out the DF team at CES. I think that's given me a little bit too much credit. I helped them eat dinner one night, and that's about it. I was there for my regular job, my day job, I guess. And it just happened to be like at CES this year, so I was there for a couple days, and I got to meet up with Alex and Oliver.
We got up to all sorts of monkey business last time, but which is to say, we're definitely not alone here. We've got another one. We've got Marc, die Gabelstapler, Duddleson.
Gotta stop those gobblers, you know?
For those not in the know, that is indeed forklift in German, and he does in fact own a copy of the sequel to Gabelstapler, the simulation.
Yeah, I mean, babies can play this game. It's USK 0.
It's USK 0. It's perfectly good. And since you've been playing that lately, we'll talk about that in a second. But first, let me introduce this week's topic. Audi is still out, by the way, but we have something really fun. It's 2006, 20 years ago. That's what we're talking about. 2006 was a very important year in the world of games. There was new consoles launched. New consoles that had previously launched were finally seeing some big titles released. There were also some not so big consoles launched. It was a year where a lot of changes happening in the industry, and it basically served as the foundation for many very important things to come, some of which I think you'll be surprised by. So we're going to get into all of that and more right after our first segment, which is a little different this week. So we thought about it with the way we released the show. The news idea actually doesn't make a lot of sense. So instead, we're just going to talk about, very briefly, some of the retro-related stuff that we may have been playing lately. Some things that we've gotten into in case we were up to some shenanigans. So let's go ahead and start with that. Let me start. I've actually been playing a lot of Super Nintendo lately, or more specifically Super Famicom, if you had to be, correct about it. But I just played through, again, I completed the entirety of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, or Kamigami no Triforce, the Japanese version of the game for the first time. And it was fun to play through it again. One, I still think that is a genius game. The art direction is just still gorgeous. It plays so darn well. There's so many smart puzzles, the world design. It really, when you look at it and you look at what came before it, the leap from the NES era of Zelda to this one is so vast.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is as large a leap as Link to the Past to Ocarina of Time. It's that big. It really is transformative. They define so much about the series here. And I will say, though, there was a few interesting changes I noticed. I mentioned this to you before, Marc, but late in the game, when you get the super bomb, you use it to blow up a little door on the pyramid in the Dark World where you always sort of spawn from, right? And in there is sort of the cursed fairy. And you toss in your sword, your shield, whatever, and she upgrades it for you. And in the Japanese version, there's an extra line thrown in that was something like, I'm fat like this because of Ganon's dark magic or whatever. and I was like, wait a minute, did they say that in the US version? And you actually look it up and it's I did not see that line anywhere. So I'm thinking they edited that. In the general vibes and the writing, it's a bit different, but it's fun to compare and contrast those things. But I had a great time playing it, is what I wanted to say. And so I was having so much fun with Super NES. I was like, let's just continue this. So I threw in Kirby Superstar, and it's also been a long time since I played through that. And of course, you cruise through the Spring Breeze very easily, but now I'm doing the Great Cave Offensive, or the Dokutsu Daisaksen, which is really, really fun.
More Daisaksens this week, huh?
Absolutely. So right now I'm partway through that specific mode. I got about half the treasures so far. But man, that is a good Kirby game.
Heck yeah.
And it's a challenging one. The caves, like, it doesn't mess around in there, especially with those thieves that steal your powers and run off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and, you know, a big part of the gameplay in that one is just finding all the secrets. I mean, you can rush through the Great Cave Offensive extremely quickly if you want to, but what's really fun about it is just finding all the treasures.
Exactly. That's really fun. So that's really what I've been up to. Mark, what about you? I mean, we mentioned, I know you're into this forklift stuff, but what else?
He's only been playing forklift stuff.
Beyond Gabelstapler.
Not so much, by the way. I do not recommend Gabelstapler 2, just so it's clear. But so I actually built a new computer at the very beginning of this year, sort of with some advice and assistance from a mutual My Life in Gaming and Digital Foundry Patreon supporter, Henry Clark, with the Weird Al avatar that people may be familiar with in there.
The tinfoil hat.
The tinfoil hat, yes. So we kind of spec'd out a, like, I'm almost thinking of it like an Xbox Series XX. Like, think of like if Xbox went for a pro console this generation and we're trying to be a little more powerful than the PS5 Pro, but yeah, you know, still like relatively within console means. We kind of spec'd out a computer like that with like a 16 gig 9060 XT, 7600 X3D CPU, and with the intent of installing Bazite on it, because I do not enjoy PC gaming. I don't like the typical environment for playing PC games in. But you know, sometimes you got to play PC games, and I was sick of it always being an inconvenience and annoyance, because I don't really play games at desks. I always want to play on the couch with a controller. So I just really wanted to make this a more inviting, hassle-free experience. And so far, especially for like the expected stuff, like Bazite, you know, launches into, you know, the Steam gaming mode, you know, this controller friendly. It's almost exactly like Steam OS. And for the expected things, it's been working pretty well. But like on the more retro side, I've been, you know, kind of seeing like, what can I push this to do that's like outside of Steam? And some of the most fun stuff to do in there has been experimenting with emulators. Like, I've had relatively little experience with PCSX2 for PS2 games before. And you know, it's actually working really darn well these days. In fact, the footage from last week's episode of some of the Ape Escape spin-offs on PS2 and PSP, I actually recorded on my Linux PC through those emulators. I can push them to 4K, but just in the interest of keeping them looking somewhat similar to the original versions, that footage was in the original resolution. But yeah, it's just been fun seeing like what I can pull off with those. You know, John, you and I were on a call a few days ago, and we were trying to get Bionic Commando Rearmed running through RCPS3, which was right at 4K 60. And that's actually a game that you point out to me is kind of borked, like the actual native PC version is kind of borked these days.
Yeah, because it's got this requirement of an old version of PhysX that doesn't install easily or play nice with PCs. And if you play it native 4K, it breaks the mini games. So, but it's very easy to emulate it on our PC. Yeah. I've even done it on like one of the base spec Mac Minis. It runs full speed, no problem.
Yeah, so
it's just like, okay.
So I've also been installing some of the N64 decomp or recomp projects, and like some of the newer ones are like really easy to get installed. Like one of my favorites is the Goemon one, which supposedly will be adding Goemon's Great Adventure at some point in the future, which that game could benefit hugely from higher frame rates. But even the 3D one on N64, like I've got that running at 4K 120, and it's pretty awesome. I will say though, I'm hoping to get this resolved today, but I've been banging my head against getting Super Mario 64 installed because it's a much older sort of decomp system, and there's also so much bloat around it, like so many branches and variants and optional things that people have come up with for that project just because it's so popular. And it's really hard to like kind of follow it if you're like kind of coming into it from the outside and understand like, what do I install? What's going to actually compile on my system? I think I'm tracking down the correct method now though, so we'll see. But I think that will be a fun thing to talk about sometime in the nearish future. Maybe these N64 and other recomps like Jack and Daxter and Sonic Unleashed and whatnot. I'm looking forward to giving those more of a try on this new era of more accessible PC gaming for me.
Very, very cool, man. I mean, I'm happy to see it, and kind of jumped in before Steam machines.
Yeah, well, I mean that was part
possibly more potent box.
So, well, yeah, I mean, a lot of the DF and others talking about, you know, the expected spec was a big part of deciding to do this, because it's like, I don't want to pay more than a PS5 and get something that's weaker than a PS5.
Right, sure. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So let's finish up then. Coury, what have you been up to lately?
I wish I could say that I've been doing nearly as much as you guys have been doing, but going to CES, traveling and stuff, I haven't had enough time to really play a lot of games. Although I did download and try out the Dragon Quest VII Reimagined demo on the PS5.
Right. Oh,
and man, it's
amazing.
Yeah, I love it. I am very excited, and this is coming from someone who never played he has owned but has never played the PlayStation 1 version. I also have the 3DS version I've never played, but this...
Now you can own this one too and never play it.
No, I'm definitely going to play this one. I love the fact that you can just, carry over the demo, and it's a pretty beefy demo. I didn't play super far into it, but you're getting into battles, wasn't the original known for having 8 hours before you even get
it's not quite that extreme, but I think it might be more 3 hours maybe.
Okay.
The original game is known for being somewhat bloated and lengthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a huge game that goes on too long.
Well, and the interesting thing about it too, someone in the MLeague Sunday stream this past week pointed out that I haven't looked up this information myself, so this is, second or third hand information, but apparently it's confirmed that certain scenarios are being cut out of the game. And so this person was like, I'm not too sure about that. And I'm like, dude, that's that is literally this game's main problem, is it has too many scenarios. It's too long. You just lose the energy to care about all of these towns' problems. It's like, oh boy, the mayor has been taken over by a monster again. It's way too much. This game needs some of the fat trim. So that actually has me even more excited for this.
I always like to look these up on YouTube for complete playthroughs of games just to get a ballpark of how long they are. And DQ7, there's a dude with 166 videos on a playlist, all between 30 to 60 minutes long, to play through the whole game. I mean, it's endless. The one thing about the remake I'm wondering about though is because the visuals are so much better, when you're equipping armor and stuff and you're just wearing that default green tunic thing the whole time, it feels like that might get a little weird.
I don't know. I do like how the materials look though, the cloth materials and the kind of, there's a good sheet on his belt. I like the design of the Dragon Quest VII main hero. But yeah, I mean, it's just really nice to see an Unreal Engine game that is kind of this more overhead perspective, and everything just looks really crisp and sharp. It's just, even the Switch 2 version, I tried it out. I thought it looked great too. There were a few more frame rate hitches, but it was not bad at all.
It's just interesting how there's going to be a Switch 1 version as well.
Yeah, now that one I did not try. I don't really, I don't imagine that's going to be a great place to play it. But it just looks so nice. It looks so nice.
I agree.
It's I'm considering starting it on day one when it releases. So no, and 7 and 3 are the only ones that I haven't finished or played in the past, except for not counting 10, I guess. So You know, it seems like the perfect way to finally play this, and you know, I'm happy that I won't miss those scenarios, because what if, I mean, it kind of stinks in the fact that sure, there's a lot of scenarios in that original game, but it probably, to some people, it makes this version feel like less definitive, right?
Right, but definitive is bad in this case. Though. You don't want definitive in this case, because the original game is probably my least favorite Dragon Quest. Like, but I mean, this is mainly because it's too big. There's just too. Yeah, you've forgotten what happened 3 towns ago by the time you're at the next town, because it's just too much. It's too much. It's the game's main problem. So, and the title is reimagined, right? So
yeah, I don't like that they call it reimagined though. Honestly, I like that they do. I wish they'd use like the subtitle from the other games.
Right. I mean, I don't love that, but if it is true that they are cutting scenarios, that kind of makes sense, because it's like, okay, how could we have done this game in a way that's a little less daunting? And, you know, I mean, there's a reason that films have deleted scenes, because they make them worse for having those scenes in there. It ruins the pacing. And Dragon Quest VII, let's be honest, it's the same. We got the extended edition first on PS1, and now we're getting the theatrical release.
Yeah.
But with all that said, let us know if you like this segment, if you want to hear what we've been doing in the comments below. But let's go ahead and jump into the main topic. 2006, a very important year in the history of video games. This is the year that we saw Xbox 360 come into its own. This was the final big year for consoles such as PlayStation 2. And this is the year that PlayStation 3 hit the market along with Nintendo Wii. But that's only scratching just the surface. You see, there was a lot of other devices released as well, tons of software across every console you can imagine, some big announcements, and just things that would change the gaming landscape forever. It was also a chance for Microsoft to shine in a way that they never had before, with the Xbox 360 becoming its most successful console ever. And it kind of really starts here. Before we dive into it, let me explain how I want to tackle this. I figured we kind of go quarter by quarter. So, breaking it down in 3-month chunks to sort of go through here and consider each one of these little sections in terms of both the software released, how it affected the industry as a whole, and our own personal thoughts of what 2006 was all about. Because I think we were all playing games at the time and have some different thoughts to share on this matter. I did actually want to start out almost as a funny thing. This was so the Nintendo DS and the PSP were already out by this point, and they were starting to amass a nice library. But this is the year where we saw like the end of the weird style portable consoles. And you know what I mean. I'm talking about stuff like the Nokia N-Gage, the Gizmondo. There was the Tapwave Zodiac. Tapwave Zodiac was already discontinued in 2005, but February 2006 is when the Gizmondo went under and the N-Gage was pulled. And I thought that was pretty funny to think about, because this was this weird time when everybody was taking a shot at it. And I've always kind of likened those systems to the mid 90s when all these electronics companies were trying to tackle the home console market. You fast forward 10 years and they were trying to do that again in the portable market, and basically none of them succeeded. So it was not good for them. There was also some weird stuff, and there's actually more I'll mention, but I do want to mention stuff like, this is the year of stuff like the GameWave Family Entertainment System. Have you guys ever heard of the GameWave Family Entertainment System?
I've never heard of that, or the Zodiac that you mentioned.
Yeah.
You don't even know the Zodiac?
Yeah, I mean, I know Gizmondo and N-Gage, although I haven't thought of the name Gizmondo in such a long time.
So this just kind of goes to show like how much stuff was happening. So like the GameWave is similar, I guess, in concept. It's like a DVD based system, I believe. Not quite. It brings to mind the Nuon. Do you guys at least know the Nuon?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. But this was more focused on like family and trivia games, puzzle games, and pretty much most of its library, of which there's not much, came out in 2006. which is why I mentioned it here. But there's not a whole lot of information on it out there, but it's just an example of one of those weird little systems that kind of stumbled out of the gate. As for me, though, I had just returned from living in Tokyo. I was not happy to be back in the US, but I had no choice. But hey, there was some awesome games coming out. I had a fancy new Xbox 360. I had my DS, my PSP. I was buying up games left and right. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, for me, I was beginning my final semester in college at the start of 2006, and I had a massive project that kind of went over the whole semester. So I wasn't keeping up with new stuff, or I wasn't like I was buying games and playing games, but I maybe a little less so. I Dragon Quest 8 had just come out at the end of 2005 in the US. So somehow I actually found the time to play that semester. And then, later on, Kingdom Hearts 2 came out as well. But this was, interestingly, this was kind of the beginning of one of my very few phases with PC gaming, because I had just built a more powerful computer to assist in this animation project I was working on for my final semester. And it wasn't really my intent to do much PC gaming on, but you get a more powerful PC, and then you start thinking like, oh, like
what can I run?
Yeah, I could check out some of these games on Steam. Half-Life 2, that sounds amazing. And interestingly, it was also probably the reason I didn't end up getting an Xbox 360, because I was really close, because I was hyped for Oblivion. So I was really close to wanting a 360, but then I realized like, well, I could hold off on making a decision of like 360 versus PS3 a little longer because I've got this PC. So that was kind of an unusual and interesting thing for me at the start of this year.
And what about you? I mean, you're slightly older than us, Coury,
Right.
even though you look younger.
Maybe not today. But so this was an interesting time for me as well, because I've been kind of out of games for a little while, for probably 3 or 4 years or so, and I hadn't been paying super close attention. I would play certain games that I knew that were just like mainstays that I had to get, like Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes came out like a couple of years before this, and I knew that I had to get that. But I was very focused on pursuing a career in New York City in video production, so I was just like really locked in on that. And I think that this was the year that I started to get back in the games, and that kind of comes back to seeing an Xbox 360 at a friend's house playing Gears+More, and that was like kind of like, oh, this is pretty cool. And from that point on, I was like, well, maybe I should trade in some of my old games and get an Xbox 360. But we'll get to Gears+War a little bit later. But that was the game that probably sparked my interest again to like get a new console. And then that would snowball like in the next couple of years, with Mario Galaxy, to when I would get a Wii, and Metal Gear Solid 4, like on the PS3.
Let's go ahead and kick into Q1, the first 3 months of 2006, because this was actually a pretty important time, I think. Some very big games came out, especially for Xbox 360, but it actually started off a little bit low key. So in 2006, actually, I went, when I came back, I ended up living with a roommate, my buddy Craig from the time. We lived at the Trails of Saddlebrook, not deep in Kentucky, but it's in Kentucky, near where there's actually a game shop today. So right near Mall Road and all that, over in Florence. It was an interesting time. We had an apartment there with sort of a shared living room, and I had an Xbox 360. He had an Xbox 360. And we just hooked up all the gaming stuff. I've shared pictures of this before. Actually, if you're watching the video version, I could share one now. You can kind of see what that setup looked like. I remember, though, so even though I'm super deep into physical games, I was still very curious about something, the Xbox Live Arcade, if you will, or this idea of like digital games. And the 360 at launch, as I'm looking at it in a video, it had some interesting stuff, but nothing like super major for me. But in early 2006, there was a little game called Marble Blast Ultra. Have you ever heard of Marble Blast Ultra?
No.
My goodness, this little game came out of nowhere. It's very unassuming looking, I would say, but it was made by Garage Games, and it had this like little in-house engine and everything. It was January 25th, 2006, and essentially imagine like a 3D perspective. You're rolling like a marble around these sort of like almost like platform game like environments, and you're basically just getting the ball to the end as fast as possible. You know, it's good old like Marble Madness action, except for you have more direct control. I guess a closer analog would be something like Super Monkey Ball in a way, although this controls differently, obviously. And it was one of those things where I was like, huh, this being released as a digital game actually makes it work in a unique way, because they're actually able to sell something that this wouldn't be big enough to sell on a disc.
Yeah.
But it was really cool.
Yeah. I mean,
I
was interested in digital games at this time as well, because it was a way to bring back some of these simpler, more arcade-like concepts, and that had been missing from games for a while. So I was very excited about it too. And, we're all really into physical games here, but I don't think it can be discounted how important it was for digital to kind of open the door to these kinds of smaller scale experiences. And, we're actually in a great era of physical media right now, in the sense that smaller games like these very often do get physical releases. So, it's kind of all come around to this, to a pretty good place at the moment, for the moment at least.
So another interesting thing to go along with that is this is around the time where, and this is a technology related thing, HD TVs. Obviously, Xbox 360 was all about HD. I knew the PlayStation 3 was coming, so I was very focused on upgrading. I had a Sony CRT that's in that famous picture that everyone's seen around the internet of my old room right before I moved out. But I decided I wanted something bigger, and I actually picked up a Toshiba plasma display. It's a 42-inch Toshiba. It sounds funny now to say 42-inch, but at the time it felt huge. It was the Cinema series with a nice black bezel and a Panasonic plasma glass installed. And while I had issues with it, like there was a bit of that PWM noise, it was a little grainy at times, and I discovered, it doesn't do black levels as well as an actual CRT. It was still better looking than any LCD, and the motion clarity is nearly on par with the CRT. Not perfect, but pretty good. And seeing a game like Marble Blast Ultra running at a full 60 FPS and like 720p.
I had a 36-inch Sony CRT at the time.
Nice.
4:3 aspect ratio. And at
big.
the time, like I didn't know about 240p, but I knew 480i and 480p, being I was a media arts major. So I knew stuff about resolutions and things like that. But I still I just didn't really fully understand like HD and what, also, the non-fixed pixel aspect of CRTs. And so I had this CRT, but the main reason I got it was I wanted a big TV and I wanted perfect black levels. But the HD aspect, I didn't fully understand at the time, I think, what I really needed to get good use out of it. So it was kind of silly that I had this and didn't have an HD system. And it didn't have an HD system until 2008. So it's
to be fair though, Mark, using the CRT like that with the Wii, which we'll discuss later, is actually pretty awesome.
100%. And that was one of the main reasons I wanted it, was because I wanted for my GameCube, for my PS2, I wanted that 480p capability. Although I didn't understand that it was doing deinterlacing, so I was kind of confused. Like, why does 480i and 480p look about the same?
That's why.
But yeah.
You guys are so lucky.
I had a lot to learn.
What did you have?
I mean, we just had a 27-inch Sharp TV probably in the living room.
Was it sharp? I mean, Coury, was it sharp?
It wasn't sharp?
No, I said, was the picture sharp, Coury?
No, but I wasn't thinking about that, right? I mean, I didn't get an HD TV until 2008. So I didn't even know what it looked like to play these games.
Now,
instead, I would be playing these games and like the little subtitles would be so small that
we'll talk about
they were
that.
impossible to read.
So the interesting thing about this era, though, that's really important to remember, is this transitional period into high definition is one of the worst periods for game responsiveness, because for two reasons, and it really begins here. One, HD TVs all required some sort of processing of the image, and at the time, things like game mode, even though it kind of existed, it wasn't great yet. If you actually go back and look at this sort of like 2006 era of like, whether it's plasma, LCD, or even CRT to some degree, they're less so, but they're still processing into HD sets. You had to give up like input response. There was additional latency. And in the LCD world especially, man, like we're talking like way over 50, sometimes even 100 milliseconds. Like,
do you think there was it wasn't even something that TV manufacturers were even thinking about, like playing games in HD? Like they're probably more concerned about like movies, right?
Well, you'd often find game modes in there still, so they were already thinking about it, but like game mode back then was like, oh, now it's like 50 milliseconds instead of like 150.
I think it's important to point out, though, that like as games were becoming more and more popular, I don't think, especially for, younger people listening today may not fully understand, like games were still like uncool. Like not like only nerds played games for the most part.
PS1 and PS2 had changed that pretty severely at that point.
Grand Theft Auto, anybody? Come on now.
But we were still marching toward the expanded popularity today. And in fact, one system in particular that we'll talk about later in this video was very much designed around expanding the audience. But
yes.
It was still in that process of being like a more established just aspect of life, right? And I don't think like TV, it really did feel like TV manufacturers were just like, games? Video games? Who plays those?
But like I said, there were game modes in there, and I think it was just this nature of it being newer technology. Like this whole TVs didn't used to be something that had to process the image, right? It was just fed in directly and like piped through the neck of a tube via the electronics. And now it was like everything had to be processed. So that required, actual like silicon to handle the stuff. And we weren't there yet. So you had unresponsive displays combined with new graphics engines that had huge latency problems by and large. Like rendering and like the different buffers and a lot of these new techniques that were being developed and used, they were still pretty slow, and there was actually like a penalty in terms of input response as well. So like games largely felt pretty mushy and unresponsive. Not all, but a lot of them did. And it's really interesting to return to it for that reason, because you really realize like, oh man, this had a very negative effect on games for a while, and we did recover. So some other titles that came around, though, interestingly, like one, not a big one to mention, but Burnout Revenge actually got a 360 port early on that I bought. I remember enjoying it, but when I look back in retrospect, I think it actually looks kind of worse. Yeah. But it was at least HD. The first really big game of 2006, though, I think, Graw.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to do it. Graw. Ghost
Clancy,
Recon
right?
Advanced Warfighter. Tom Clancy's. The very same.
Yeah. I remember that on forum.
Do you guys remember this?
Yeah, I mean, I know of it. I know the name Graw and what it is, but I can't tell you anything about the game.
would tell you, like, I was not super into I guess this sort of like military games yet, but I remember very well when this came out. This was hyped up big. It's like a huge thing from Ubisoft, this idea of like this large scale military action game. And I gave it a shot. And I knew Tom Clancy's stuff from like Rainbow Six days, which was very tactical. And this seemed like it was well, I was thinking more like specifically, like I said, Rainbow Six, the Rogue Spear, and all that kind of stuff they were doing. Ghost Recon, the original. This also has tactics in it, but it's definitely more console focused. And the difference this time was the spectacle. And when you look at it, it's like one, they like early on in the game, you hop in this helicopter with the music playing, and they like literally seamlessly pull you up from the ground. You're looking out over this massive cityscape. There's like, it's like sunset, there's heat waves and like all kinds of post-processing effects. Everything's slightly out of focus. And it was just like unlike anything I'd ever seen before visually. And that's what this game was about. It's just like this sense of scale and visual quality was really unmatched at the time.
That was probably the first time you felt like this was the new generation.
This is the first game that really felt like, okay, this is like legit next generation stuff here. Like you're not doing this in this way on the older consoles. And it's just the scale. Every map was huge. There was a lot of stuff happening within them. It had real-time shadows everywhere. They were a little bit gnarly, but like this idea of like actually having like a moving sun with all these like cool environmental effects and heat haze and everything reacting and moving in real time. It'd never been done like this before. And it was a huge game as a result. Like, even if you're not super into military Tom Clancy stuff, like, I think a lot of people gave this a shot for that reason.
Was there any sequels? I know that there was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Ghost Recon. Yeah, but the series is dead now, right? Has there been one?
I believe so. I mean, there was Advanced Warfighter 2 as well, and then there was like another evolution of that, and then the most recent one was Wildlands, Ghost Recon. Yeah, which was pretty big and good fun in co-op.
There was one on the 3DS or something too. It was a strategy game, right?
Yeah, that was excellent. Yeah, exactly. That was a totally different genre, but very, very cool nonetheless. But this was an important game, but it wasn't the most important game. And I think even you paid attention to this, because shortly after, history was arguably made, and this changed the console gaming space forever. It was the release of The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Why did it change the gaming console space? So John, explain this here.
Well, first of all, remind me exactly what the release date was, because this game is like so associated with May 2006 for me, and I probably just waited until then because I was so busy with my last semester in college. Was this actually first quarter?
This was March.
Wow.
March 20th, 2006.
Yeah. I guess I just waited till May.
I didn't want to drop out of school and when he was about to finish.
Exactly. Yeah. Because like to me, this game's release date was May. Yeah, I had never played an Elder Scrolls game before. I had heard the name Morrowind, but didn't know much about it. But when I started seeing the screenshots for this game, it was kind of too real to be real, so to speak.
And there's a good reason for that. And to understand why this is important, we need to look at what this type of game is, and then also what consoles traditionally offered. So the Elder Scrolls series had been around since the 90s, and it made its name big on the PC, of course. This was a PC Western-style role-playing game played in first person. The idea was that you are dropped into these gigantic worlds with full freedom. You can talk to so many people, explore all these towns, take on quests as you please, customize your character. Like, it's a really full-on role-playing game, but the combat itself is somewhat, even though there's dice rolls happening underneath the surface, it feels more action-oriented. But the size and scope is something that made this only really feasible on a personal computer at the time. That is until Morrowind, which received the third Elder Scrolls game, mainline Elder Scrolls games. There was some spin-offs. This was the first one to launch on PC and the original Xbox. But I would argue the Xbox wasn't ready. It was fun, but it barely worked. The games would bloat to this point where like the saves would take 5, 6, 7 minutes to load.
Phew.
It would need to like quietly reboot the console quietly, like in the sense that like they would show a loading screen, but they would actually secretly reboot the console underneath to load it back up. They're constantly running out of memory. There were so many problems with it. I know my sister put in hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game, and it really like destroyed. It self-destructed on the original Xbox. Oblivion then, it was popular, but it didn't change anything, I would say. Just a bit, right? We started to see more PC-like games on the original Xbox, but there were still a lot of compromises. Oblivion is the first time I would argue that we really saw a true large-scale PC-style game brought to a console with minimal compromise at a time when even a lot of people's PCs couldn't actually run the game at the sort of quality that we saw in the console space. This began the fusion of PC and consoles that still persists to this day.
Yeah. I mean,
and it was huge. It was huge.
I just thought like, obviously now you look at it, the animations are bad and stuff, but those screenshots just looked so real. I mean, the grass and the guy in the gold armor and stuff, that you still see that screenshot to this day, right? And
so, I think you guys can agree. So during the PS2 generation, this was when open world games started to take off. And I think during that entire generation, it was pretty much agreed upon that you either had a very densely designed game with beautiful visuals, like think Metal Gear Solid 2, for instance, something that just looks amazing, it runs super smooth, but the game world is constrained and small, lots of loading screens, right? Or you had an open world game that gave you full freedom to go wherever, but as a result, your visuals suffered a lot.
Right.
I mean, Grand Theft Auto, let's be honest, worse than many others, but GTA 3 is not actually a very good looking game for artistically, sure, but it's very basic. And this was mostly true for that entire generation. Open world games, you had to pick and choose. You either got your open world or you got your graphics. When you looked at Oblivion, now maybe a little rougher, but at the time it felt like, wait, I'm getting, I get to have my cake and eat it too. You're getting these beautiful visuals at a scale that's kind of unprecedented.
Yeah.
And that was what was so special about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good way to put it. I mean, the idea of open worlds was still just so enticing. I mean, in a lot of ways, we're kind of tired of it nowadays, but at the time it was like, I could do anything in this world. And I remember just like dreaming about like, what kinds of characters I might build and what I might do in this world. It just seemed endless. And when I was very strongly considering getting an Xbox 360 to play this game, but since I end up with the computer that was actually good enough to play games, I ended up playing it on PC, and I loved it. And this is still my favorite Elder Scrolls games. There's just something about the vibe of this game that I still love. It's really cool. Day. Yeah.
We should do an episode on some Elder Scrolls at some point. I think there's some interesting things there. But interestingly, a counterpoint to this can be found in Ubisoft's release of something called Far Cry Instinct's Predator. I mentioned this because 2004, Crytek released, along with Ubisoft, the first Far Cry game. And it was just called Far Cry. And I don't love this game, but technically speaking, it was a masterpiece. It was the first real showcase of CryEngine being used in a shipping game. And it presented this gigantic, super detailed, beautiful, lush world. Super cool. Far Cry Instincts, however, was a port of the game, not port, it was sort of like a reimagining, like DQ7 reimagined of the game for the original Xbox. Xbox was not going to handle the size and scope of the original Far Cry, so it was downgraded. What Far Cry Instincts on Xbox 360 seems to be is an enhanced, pretty well enhanced, but an enhanced version of the Xbox game. Sort of like reborn for the 360, meaning that what you ended up with was something that was not bringing the PC version to consoles. It was bringing the old console version to a newer console and just sort of upgrading it. So it's kind of like the opposite way of thinking versus what we saw with Oblivion. And obviously this would change in time. So the first quarter was pretty important for Xbox 360. I think it can be said, but let me just list off a few games that came out on other platforms. And if you want to talk about any of these, Let's do it.
Really quick, before you do that, I want to.
Yeah.
What was the the delay between the release of Oblivion and then the release of the horse armor? Did the horse armor hit like right around that same time? Because I mean, that's like the first DLC. Or no, it's not the first DLC. It's like the first like. Is it like microtransaction? I guess it would be on the.
Well, I mean, it was DLC. I mean, I people didn't know what to call it at the time.
But first
really.
cosmetic DLC,
right? Well,
okay.
I mean, this was a really confusing concept for me because I didn't have an Xbox 360. I wasn't familiar yet with that concept of downloadable content or microtransactions or whatever you want to call it, and it took me some time to like understand what is this thing people are so upset about. Because I didn't know what this was. What is it? What is downloadable content? What is this?
So in a nutshell, this is kind of like paid mods. Let's describe it that way. Up to this point, PC gamers had been able to modify their games for decades. There was whole communities built around this stuff, making new content and stuff for existing games. 360 changed this with this whole internet connection, Xbox Live and everything, where now developers could suddenly tap into this account system and sell sort of like additional content for their game. And yeah, the horse armor famously is, I believe, the first example of actual paid downloadable content for a game. And
there was stuff like Ninja Gaiden on the original Xbox, and there was Halo map packs. I mean, I just feel like it's more like first cosmetic.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess
that's different.
The line's kind of blurred, I would say, between like expansion packs and when things became like little smaller DLC type things.
Expansion packs existed for years.
Right.
PC, right? Like that's not new. The original Xbox had expansion packs in a similar sense.
Right.
This though was something you would access directly and purchase and add like a tiny piece of something to your game.
Right.
And this actually came out in early April of 2006. And I do remember the kerfuffle on NeoGAF at the time.
Yeah.
And just this kind of blew up and became this example of what a lot of people didn't want. And I still don't love this kind of stuff. But unfortunately, it has become kind of the norm these days. But yeah, it was just literally cosmetic armor for your horse. And here's something else you might have forgotten. Back then, real currency was not part of the equation in terms of how these things were priced. You had Microsoft points. Yes. Yep. This was 200 Microsoft points.
But and the least amount you could buy is 400, which was 500. 400 Microsoft points was $5.
$5, yes.
You buy this and you'd be stuck with 200, and it's like, okay, well, if I want to get an Xbox Live game, I got to spend another $5 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the whole the sneakiness to it, right? Like everything cost versus the amount of Microsoft points you could purchase. Everything sort of had this cost of being like, well, I'll always have leftover Microsoft points,
so you want
to keep you
more
invested in the system.
Yeah,
I would say
I don't miss those
works.
days at all. Because $5 is 400 Microsoft points. It's just like, I don't know, it's a lot to remember at the time.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Coury, because you're right. That was another important checklist thing for where the gaming industry was going forward. Indeed. So that's probably that was a big thing, and that was actually getting into Q2 then, because it's early April, right? But yes, it's connected to the Elder Scrolls Oblivion.
Let's hit those last gen games then.
Sure. Right away in January, and I listed the ones here that I purchased. There was probably more, but games that I bought right away that year because I was still very much loving last gen machines. First of all, we got the Mega Man X collection.
Oh, I got that.
Which is awesome because unlike the original collection, this one actually did 240p.
Yep. They removed all the slowdown, which is fine, but it made it feel like less authentic.
I feel like the original collection was done by like a company like Mass Media or something. I'm just thinking of that elephant. Maybe it was. I think that one was outsourced, and the X collection I think was handled elsewhere. Maybe internal.
I feel like it was internally because they did this and like the Alpha collection,
right?
And
it was cool, right? It was good.
Yeah.
So that was a nice change. There was also, I mentioned, we talked about this a lot last week, Apescape 3, of course, that was there. I imported Siren 2 when that first hit. That never got a US release, but it's one of my favorite horror games ever made. I think it's absolutely just an incredible game and a huge improvement over the original Siren. Siren would come back again on PlayStation 3 as a downloadable game in the West. It actually got a disc version in Asia, and Europe, which is cool, just not the US. There was Drakengard 2. There was the US release of Grandia 3, which I love. Grandia 3, super underrated. Tales of Legendia got a US release as well. Onimusha Dawn of Dreams, which is a really cool game that got destroyed in the US because it was they completely changed the balance of the game, making it like way harder and not fun.
Really?
Yeah, so the US version kind of sucks, but the Japanese version's super fun.
I remember that one being kind of it was surprising that it even was made, because I feel like Onimusha 3 was kind of considered to be like the end of the story.
Another one, and this really gets me. Marc Echo's Getting Up, Contents Under Pressure.
that title has always sat with me. I'm just like, what does it mean?
I understand that it's like actually pretty good though.
So here's the thing, and the reason I was into this. Now this is kind of like a lot of people kind of poo-pooed this game back in the day. I remember, but I knew I had a secret. I knew it. The developer. This was done by The Collective. And the reason I like The Collective is that, first of all, they made a game called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, based on the show, on the original Xbox.
That game's pretty good.
Really good. Super good. Very fun. Awesome combat system, which they then followed up with Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, which is one of my favorite games on Xbox. It's an awesome...
I need to try that sometime.
Action adventure game. It's not pure like Tomb Raider per se. It's a little bit more actiony. It feels to me like a sequel to The Infernal Machine, but a lot better. And I really liked it. And just because of that alone, I was like, all right, these guys are at least good enough to pay attention to. So I gave Marc Echo's Getting Up a shot, and it is good. I don't love it as much as Indiana Jones or anything, but I still think it's a solid game. Apparently, though, they also released the Da Vinci Code that same year, which is interesting. But so the thing about Backbone, though, is that they originally came from ex-Virgin employees. So Virgin Entertainment was big in the 90s. So there was some serious like cred behind the scenes there. But eventually, if you remember, they were merged with Shiny Entertainment, no less.
Okay.
Which also has that Virgin connection, Earthworm Jim, MDK, and all that. And they became Double Helix games.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember Double Helix? They made... So I don't love Silent Hill Homecoming, but they did end up doing the 2014 version of Strider, which I think is cool.
Yes.
And they were the ones that rebooted Killer Instinct in 2013.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
before Iron Galaxy took that over, right?
Exactly. Right. So a lot of history crammed in there when I mentioned Marc Echo.
Yeah.
A few more games though. Sonic Riders, if you remember. That happened.
I know of it. I've never seen it.
It's a fun little game. Criterion released Black, which was the gun porn game. You remember that?
Yeah, I mean that game was visually considered a really big deal. What would I've like booted it up on, like OPL or something before, but never really played much of it. Like, would you still consider it pretty good? And if so, which would you recommend, Xbox or PS2?
The Xbox version is backwards compatible.
It is, but I'm partial. I really like the PS2 version because Criterion tended to focus on PS2 first and foremost. And like Burnout Revenge before it, there's some visual effects that I think just look better, more interesting on PS2 versus the Xbox version, even though they're both pretty good. The big trick about this one and why they always called it gun porn was like, first of all, the guns take up a huge portion of the screen and they're very detailed.
Yeah, there's like crazy reloading animations, right?
Yeah, every time you reload your weapon, I swear,
like depth
every
of field,
time,
right?
They put depth of field on the gameplay screen and focus on the reloading animation as you slot every shell into your weapon. It's nuts. Like I look at it, the shotgun here. It's like sliding each shell into the chamber at the bottom there. That's what they're going for. It's pretty funny to see. It was also a very destructible game, not in the sense that you could destroy the whole level, but like all the facades had breakables. So, you shoot like the side of a building and like it all like the cement crumbles off, pillars fall down. Like the whole idea was like, as you shoot the environment, everything just kind of blows up and falls apart.
Is it 30 FPS game?
Yes.
Is it pretty stable?
Unlike Criterion's other games, they had to go for 30, and it's pretty stable. The early builds were actually 60.
Oh.
And if I ever release that video, if I can finish it, I was working on a Criterion video at one point, and I have a ton of pre-release footage
that's cool.
It's either never been seen or was only shown at E3.
Wow.
Which is super cool looking, and it shows the game running at 60 FPS. But with major slowdown. Wow. Well, I see why they capped it at 60.
I'll keep an eye out for the PS2 version. It sounds like something I should.
It is 480p and widescreen as well, by the way, of course. So it's a cool little game. Beyond that, Shadow Hearts from the New World came out. That was cool. There was the Subsistence version of Metal Gear Solid 3. That came out in the US. Japanese version came out just at Christmas, right before I flew back home. I got that version.
And you also tend to not be as much a fan of that version, right, John?
No, I like that version fine because you can still use the original camera.
Oh, okay. I forgot
like
you could do
options.
that. Yeah. It never occurred to me until you like started talking about that more recently that some people might prefer the version where you don't have camera control, and you kind of made me want to go back and replay the original version because I've always replayed it with the full camera control ever since because I think it does play better, but I can kind of understand your viewpoint there. So I want to play the original again sometime.
The thing about that try is that they did a lot of work on the cinematic camera angles in the original that's completely lost when you move to the third person.
Yeah,
camera.
and I just didn't think about it that way at the time,
And even then, they let you move around the overhead camera with the right stick, and you can kind of pin it in place. So if you find an angle you like, you can kind of pin it, and like it's very interesting. The reason it doesn't work that well is just because of the jungle environments. They're a bit too dense for it sometimes, and it's easy to lose track of what you're looking for. But it's a cool option. I think it's neat that that you could still play with that original camera. And then another release, both early in the year, I think in March, Final Fantasy XII was first released on PlayStation 2.
In Japan, yeah.
Japan.
We can talk about that more, I guess, when we get to the US release. Because that was a big deal. That was a big deal for me, that game.
John, why'd you skip Final Fight Streetwise?
And John, why'd you skip Kingdom Hearts 2?
I put Final Fight Streetwise on here, and then I realized like I didn't actually buy that at the time.
Okay.
So the rest of these I purchased at the time, and that was one I only came to later when I did the Final Fight episode.
Okay. Final Fight Streetwise it's pretty stupid. It's a pretty stupid game.
It's pretty dumb. It's pretty dumb. It's funny, but it's pretty dumb.
Yeah, I know you're not a fan of Kingdom Hearts though, John, but
I'm not.
And I'm not the biggest fan either. Like I liked it at the time, just because like it was really silly seeing, Mickey being, wearing this like Sith Lord outfit and stuff. I just loved the absurdity of it.
He doesn't want to say Mickey being a badass.
I mean, he is. It's true.
Mickey's out here killing people, just
the heartless at least. Yeah, it's an interesting game. I mean, I did end up spending a lot of time with it, but I didn't play it right away because I was so busy. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting game, and obviously
it's an important.
It's an important game. I mean, it's a game people still talk about, remember, especially people who are a few years younger than us. This is like one of the most iconic PS2 games. So
yeah,
and I respect that. It's a really well-made game, beautiful looking and important. And it also shows how even in 2006, with the arrival of a new next generation console and the promise of the PS3 and all that, we were still getting like really big franchises launching on the system. And that would continue in 2007 and beyond, actually, with stuff like God of War 2 and Persona and all that.
Now, guys, I really cannot think of like a first party GameCube game in 2006. Like we're talking about the last year continuing. Like GameCube's last year was almost as bad or maybe worse than N64's last year.
Well, Twilight Princess.
I was going to say
yes, but
Twilight
it wasn't
Princess,
exclusive,
right?
So
in North America, probably the only one that comes to mind was Chibi Robo.
Oh yeah,
I believe that was 2006. But you are right that by 2006, you're right. Like 2006, like GameCube and the original Xbox were both basically like out of the market.
This was a dark time on Nintendo hardware outside of the DS. The DS was really finally coming into its own.
Hold now, hope for the revolution.
The revolution.
That's an important point, Mark. I wanted to take note of a few handheld games that dropped during Q1. 2004 is when both of those systems launched. I'm talking about Nintendo DS and the PlayStation Portable. 2005 was like their first big year. 2006 then sort of continued that momentum, right? And in this first quarter, we actually got Tetris DS, which is an awesome version of Tetris. We got the arrival of Cooking Mama, which has been around for a while.
Wow.
Got Metroid Prime. Wait.
Hunters?
Oh, that's right. Metroid Prime Hunters. The original DS did come with a demo for Metroid Prime Hunters, but the actual game didn't end up shipping until 2006.
Okay. And that's the one that sets up like all the stuff that happens in Metroid Prime 4, right?
Basically,
like
yeah.
Silex appears in that one.
Like
everyone's favorite Metroid Prime.
Yeah, everyone cares about
Force?
Silex so much.
Might be Federation Force that.
Honestly, I'm not, or maybe both. I don't know. I was never particularly interested in the
Big
DS
for
Metroid Prime games, to be honest.
Oh, that's a shame. But okay. So that was DS, but PSP also got, so we got the US version of what they called Me and My Katamari, which is a Katamari Damacy on the PSP. Pretty cool. But the big one on PSP, actually, for me at least, was Metal Gear Acid 2.
Yeah,
with the solid eye Tobin acid.
I mean, I hear that
solid eye.
They're card like kind of card based tactical games, right? I hear they're good.
So yes, it's a tactics game, full 3D levels. You're actually performing actions from Metal Gear as you move Snake and characters through these worlds. But each action you take, of course, is turn based. And the actions you can perform are determined by the cards. So it is a turn-based strategy game. I would liken it actually to, it's like a card-based XCOM in a way, but, based on Metal Gear. And as a result, the scenarios and what you do, it's really cool because it's basically like slowing down the action of a Metal Gear and giving you the chance to think about each action that you take.
Right.
Like if you're around a corner and there's a security camera down the hall, you're not just leaning out and physically shooting it with your action controls. It's like, well, what am I going to do here? If you have something like a chaff grenade, you could use that card and throw it down and throw it out, right? And you take out the camera. Stuff like that.
I should get these. So I think I would really like that kind of gameplay, actually.
So here's the thing, though. Metal Gear Acid 1, which was a good launch game for the system, looked a lot stylistically like Metal Gear Solid 2 kind of thing, right? Like it kept that sort of design language. Metal Gear Acid 2 goes insane. It's super colorful. It's got like cell-shaded characters. It's really wild looking. And it shipped with the solid eye, solid eye Tobin acid or whatever they called it, which was literally a cardboard thing with lenses on it that you fold up, that divides the screen into two. And when you switch the game to that mode, you get stereoscopic 3D.
Okay.
So you're looking down.
I did not know about that. Wow.
You hold the PSP to your face while looking into this thing and you get like a 3D version of the game in front of you.
Cool.
And now obviously because they're dividing the image up into they're dividing the PSP screen in half, you're essentially getting like half the resolution effectively, right? Because but the effect is cool.
Wow.
It's so weird. I can't believe that they freaking did that. It's literally like a fold up cardboard viewfinder, similar to like Google Cardboard that would happen years later for that. And yeah, you just get to play the game in stereoscopic 3D, which is why and it uses anaglyph actually, I think. So it's not like red and blue or anything.
Oh.
So it really looks like a proper full color 3D effect.
Interesting.
From what I recall. I need to pull mine out again to see how maybe it doesn't divide it down the center. I don't remember how it works exactly. I just remember
need footage of it for this.
that the way it works is so cool, and I always had hoped that they would port this to the 3DS years later.
Oh yeah.
It's basically ready for 3D. Like it even looks like a 3DS game so much. You're like, come on, this is tailor made for 3DS. It should have made a new version of it, but they didn't. But if you've not had a chance to play it, I really recommend it. Like awesome music, just amazing presentation, cool, crazy storytelling, and like basically Metal Gear action that's turn based. I actually like this a lot more than what would come later, which is the Portable Ops game. I think this is way more fun and more suited to a mobile platform. So, cool game.
Before we move on from the handheld games, I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to Super Princess Peach, which it's not a great game, but at the time it kind of felt significant because 2D platformers were not so much a thing as they've really come back, but at the time it was the closest thing we'd gotten to a Super Mario side-scrolling platformer sequel, right? Which obviously in the second quarter there would be a bit more of a full-fledged revival of that, but it was like at the time I was like, wow, this is exciting just because it's been so long since we've seen a game like this in the Mario series, even though I think it's a Tosei game if I'm not mistaken, and it feels like it feels like a Tosei game. So it's extremely okay as Tosei games tend to be.
Yeah, that's about the way I would put it. But it's not bad. I like it. It's cool. All right. Let's continue a bit. I wanted to make a very quick mention of this. Macworld 2006 occurs early in the year. Why is this important? Well, this is when they introduced the MacBook Pro, as it was called, the MacBook Pro for the very first time. And this was also during Apple's shift to Intel Silicon, which they've now gotten away from, of course. But this specific year marked a huge change for what Apple was doing that would last for like over a decade. Their hardware was different. The MacBook moniker, MacBook Pro and all that was used rather than like the PowerBook. They had like the PowerBook G4 and all that and things like that. This was
so they were
the
Power
MacBook
PC
Pro.
up to this point, right? And then they switched over to Intel, right? I remember
Famously,
how big of a deal that was.
Right, like they introduced the G5, but it was too hot. They couldn't get the 3 gigahertz like they wanted, famously. It just wasn't doing what they needed. The performance per clock wasn't enough, and they needed or per watt, I guess, wasn't where they wanted it to go, and they ended up partnering with Intel, and it kind of changed things forever. So it was still a year before the iPhone, though. This is 2006, so
but the iPhone was revealed this year.
No. It was revealed in 2007.
Why did I
see? I've always
my mind is always
I've always associated iPhone with 2006 for some reason.
Nope. It's 2007 for sure. This was still the year of the BlackBerry and Razor phones.
Remind me who made PowerPC? Was it IBM?
It was an IBM joint.
Yeah.
It's actually very important because the Xbox 360 and PS3 both have their CPU cores are PowerPC based cores.
Oh, I didn't know that about PS3. I knew that about Xbox 360 though.
The main core in the cell processor is PowerPC based.
I did not know
it just
that.
has the SPUs alongside it, and IBM worked on all of it. So Toshiba was also involved in the cell along with Sony. But interesting times. But all right. quarter two. Gentlemen, are you ready? First thing to note, this is the quarter in which E3 would take place. Lots of stuff was announced here. This was big. Obviously, the 360 was out. It was already seeing success. The red ring had not occurred yet. So they were riding high. At E3 this year, Microsoft would show so many games. This is when we would see a glimpse of Halo 3. There was Fable 2 announced. We saw more of Gears, which would launch later in the year. Games like Fear from the PC coming to Xbox 360, Mass Effect, Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, which at the time seemed cool, but, well, you know what happened. There was Saints Row, Stranglehold, Test Drive Unlimited, Prey, Dead Rising, Crackdown, etc.
Dead Rising was a big deal.
It was. One of the coolest things about E3, though, I don't know if you guys remember this, demos.
Yeah.
This had never happened before, but because the 360 was an internet-connected system, publishers could release demos that you could play at home. Because up until this point, people went to E3, you would play demos on the show floor, and that was it. People at home, unless they did like a magazine disc that included that demo, you weren't going to play it. Capcom, however, among others, released a demo of Lost Planet, Extreme Condition. Mm-hmm. And this was probably the second or third big game that I played where I thought, whoa, now this is seriously next gen.
Yeah.
The explosions, the use of motion blur, like the way everything came together, the snow effects, like it was nuts. Like really, really, really impressive looking game. It didn't launch this year. It was just the demo, but it was an E3 thing.
But between Dead Rising and that, it really felt like Capcom was throwing a lot at the Xbox 360. Like that was going to be one of their main platform going forward, it felt like.
Their engine, the MT framework, as it would become known, which was a genius in-house technology, one of the most performant from that generation, the Xbox 360 basically served as the basis for it. And this would not be good for Sony, but this was really good for Microsoft. So that was a big deal. Microsoft had a really good E3. What about the others? Nintendo, of course. What do you think? You know, it's time. They were still doing E3 conferences. They roll up. Reggie's still there, of course, but they begin with Miyamoto coming out on stage with a Wiimote in hand, conducting an orchestra, if you will.
Oh, boy.
Which I guess was like... I don't remember if they announced it at the time or if this was just like a harbinger of things to come, but it was basically Wii music.
Because 2008 was the big Wii music year for E3. That was the disastrous one.
Like killed their conferences going forward. Right?
But you know, John, I feel like you're getting a little ahead of ourselves because it was like maybe 2 weeks, give or take, before E3 where, you know, they kind of just like bit the bullet and announced that the revolution is called the Wii, because they do, especially I think in the English speaking world, they knew that was not going to go over well and they wanted to get it out of the way before E3. And do you remember how many people were like, I will never call this the Wii, is the Nintendo revolution forever? And I don't know of anyone.
I'm glad I missed this.
I don't know of anyone who actually stuck to their guns on that.
Yep. I remember this. It's a weird one, but yeah. And I remember also thinking, man, that's a strange name. For the English speaking world in particular, I think it was a terrible name, but I don't know whether like revolution is too hard of a word for them to have really kept. That would have been
especially
bad,
for, you know, the expanded audience, right? That's just, you know, a little too gritty. And I think, you know, it's that Nintendo hardcore that didn't want to be seen as kiddie anymore. That was just like gripping to revolution. And so, yeah, that was an interesting time. I mean, I was just like, wow, that's weird. That's going to be difficult to communicate to people. What is this? How do you say this word? WII. It was not a great moment for a couple weeks there. until we really got to see it more at E3. And I started to get excited. I mean, I was drinking the Nintendo Kool-Aid over the Wii pretty hard. I was pumped, and I do think the Wii is a great system. So, but we'll get more into that. But for now, what did we see about it at E3, John?
Yeah, so it really just began with Miyamoto wearing like a tux, no less, with a bow tie, I believe. Just like, doing the whole orchestra conducting thing. And I really, like I said, I don't think they actually announced Wii music here, but they were basically showing it in the background with like the Mii's represented as characters playing instruments behind him.
Proof of
as
concept.
He conducted the orchestra. And nobody else could do this but Miyamoto, I think. Like, just like it works as him because he feels like Willy Wonka, but like good Willy Wonka, showing off this stuff. Although even around the sides, you had like dudes like all wearing black, like, moving around and all this kind of stuff. It's important to know that going into this, like we really hadn't seen much of it, but like the Revolution controller had been revealed back at TGS, I think the prior year. So people knew that they were doing something really weird with it. But it wasn't until this conference that we really actually saw what they had in store. And I think this intro was actually very smart because as he's dancing around on stage, they're actually showing other people doing actions along with game footage to kind of give you an idea of what they're going for. It instantly tells you, oh, I see. Especially the Red Steel footage, because he's got like both controllers like this. And he's like slashing like a sword, and like your brain's instantly like, dude, what about a lightsaber? Which is something that people would be saying for a long time. And then after that pretty explosive intro, Reggie comes out and he's like, I'm going to break all your legs and shatter your kneecaps, as he does with this awesome system. They talk a little bit about the DS and everything and show some more footage. And then he sort of just like gets down to brass tacks and they talk about games coming to the system. And I think the big demonstration comes at some point where they show off Twilight Princess. And they show basically, this is like, here's what the Wiimote can do. They show the pointer function, the sword stuff. Even though the sword would end up being pretty inconsequential, it was still it was a cool demo, right? Mm-hmm. So it gave us an idea of what they were trying to accomplish. And I know some people were disappointed with Twilight Princess, but you got to remember the hype around this game was gigantic.
Yes. Like
people wanted realistic 3D Zelda for a long time, ever since the GameCube demo. Wind Waker, I think by now people loved, but the reaction to it was not great at first. And this was like the Zelda game everybody wanted. And this was going to be on the Wii as well. And and I think up to this point, it had only been announced as a GameCube game. And so here it was.
Yeah, I forget. That probably was when it was confirmed it was coming to the Wii. I forget exactly. But, I mean, I was excited for the Wii version over the GameCube version because, like, I mean, for one, we didn't know what the motion control was going to be like. I mean, and I would argue it's totally fine in Twilight Princess. I don't, yes, it's just registering a shake as a button press, but it doesn't feel... To me, I never thought it felt unresponsive or overly laggy. And I was also excited because it was going to support widescreen, whereas the GameCube version was not.
Exactly. Although, as we know now, actually the GameCube version does support widescreen. You just have to go through the back door.
Does it? I didn't know
It's not official. It's not official. If you use Swiss... you can turn it on,
and it actually expands the field of view. It probably I bet the HUD looks bad though.
HUD's not great, and in a couple areas, like I think the desert, like some of the visual effects are still like 4:3 based, but like 90% of the game looks fine and is fully widescreen.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, but funny. Now you can play the HD version on the Wii U that everyone has. You can play what is essentially GameCube style controls with the original left-handed Link and non-mirrored world.
That was cool. They showed off more stuff, but I think the big finisher is and this is the unexpected thing. They showed off Wii Sports. They brought out Miyamoto again. Reggie was there. And then I think they also had Iwata-san was there as well. And they actually had some kind of contest where they called up an audience member named Scott on stage, and he would play 4-player Wii Tennis with Iwata, Reggie, and Miyamoto.
Wow.
And they showed it.
Was Scott just a person? A random person that pulled out?
I feel like it was, because if I recall, Miyamoto would just pull out a slip of paper and was like, the winner is, and it's like Scott something.
I wonder where
and
Scott
he like
is
looks
now.
surprised and comes up on stage, and they're all up on stage together. They've got the Iwata me bouncing around with his tennis racket. It's pretty fun. And I think at the time it was just shown off as like, this is a cool thing you can do. And I don't think Nintendo realized yet just how big Wii Sports would become. But what about Sony?
Sony's E3 conference. I mean, this is the most famous E3 conference of all time.
Arguably, yes, but not necessarily for the best reasons.
Not for the best reasons.
Right.
So once again, it starts off with our man Kaz Harai getting up on stage and being like, we kicked everybody's butt. The PS2 best-selling console ever. PSP also selling pretty darn well. We're in good shape.
You used to go through it like those Sony conferences at the time were a lot of charts and graphs and everything for like half of it.
Yeah.
Right? Just showing how good they're doing.
And then they get to the PS3. And now you have to remember that in 2005, we've done videos on this on DF as well, if you want to revisit those. Sony came out swinging. They showed off so much fake stuff and promised the world for the PS3. Like, look, we've got, it was Killzone 2. Looks like a movie. We've got Motorstorm. Have you seen graphics like this? Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, they showed off so much stuff. Most of it was fake, which was unfortunate because in the past, that was not the case. Sony always showed off their hardware with actual tech demos that were real. We know that was the case with PS2 and PS1, but PS3 was different. And then they come back. They originally announced that the PS3 should have already been out, but it was delayed to late 2006. And this is the E3 where they revealed it properly. And we got to see what it actually would become. And the first demo they have is they bring up Yamauchi-san from Polyphony Digital, and he decides to present Gran Turismo HD. And this has to be famously one of the most boring presentations I've ever seen. He gets up on stage for like an hour. No, it's actually like 20 minutes. And they just show GT HD running in 1080p, which is cool, but at this point in time, all it is
replay,
just
right?
It's the PS2 graphics of GT4 running at 1080p. They hadn't actually done like if they showed GT5 level visuals already, people would have been super impressed. But this was just like the PS2 game at 1080p. And they literally just showed like replays while saying very little. Like there was points where it's just sound effects of cars going.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Past the camera, and nobody's saying anything. You hear like the random like in the audience, and it's just like, and he's like, yes, if you look at this demo here, we have it's 1080 pixels.
And it's not even super impressive because didn't like the because GT4 ran at 1080i could run at 1080i.
I don't know if it was
but it wasn't.
It wasn't rendering.
It wasn't
that high though, but
like,
it was outputting.
It wasn't that high, but the audience didn't know that.
Yeah,
they just know that they had heard 10. But then like they'd show a demo and be like, "All right, back to the main menu. Let's do another track." They do it like 4 times, and you can tell the audience like looking at their watches and their laptops. What is going on?
We're gonna do this again.
And it's like
another one. How many did they do?
It's so long. It's over 15 minutes, and now everybody's like falling asleep. People watching at home, they're like, "What's happening here?" And like, all right, next game, the power of PlayStation 3. It's time for the Eye of Judgment. Let's put cards on the table with this camera and watch dragons come out at low frame rates.
I mean, if people want to see all the details of this, I helped y'all remaster your old E3 2005 and 2006 Sony conferences in a combo video that released sometime last year. And the 2006 footage in particular is actually like sourced from the 1080i digital cameras. So I mean, if you want to see this conference in a whole new way, go check out those uploads, because that footage looks incredible to highlight, one of the, I mean, this when I think of E3 press conferences, this is the one I think of. Like it's
Dude,
bad,
you're so right.
but it's like is the best train wreck imaginable. There's a reason people still say it's Ridge Racer and giant enemy crab and real-time weapon switching, and the guy with the 6-axis controller flying the what was that game, Warhawk.
So here's the thing, though, is like after you watch 90 minutes of Gran Turismo HD and then they show off the Eye of Judgment, Kaz Hirai comes back out on stage in his pink, flowing, billowing blouse, if you will, and this time he's holding a PSP and he drops it. He does the Ridge Racer thing. It happens. He made history, and they show what is actually an awesome feature, but like. So far, it's like they've shown two things that are very underwhelming for PS3, and then like here now you can play PS1 games on your PSP. I mean, you got to think about that. That does not make a strong impression.
Yeah,
like everybody's like, "Why are you showing us this at this point? We want to see like the PS3," and you've shown like a card game that looks bad, and like the PS2 version of GT4 running at 1080p. Like, where's the games?
And it's not like playing PS1 games on PS2. Or it was like even that big of a deal. I mean, like it didn't feel like it was that revolutionary.
They showed off the PlayStation Network store, and I actually like the way this looked in its original form. They showed that. They showed the PlayStation card where you could it was like a credit card that was PlayStation branded. And then, they showed like SingStar, and you're like, geez, come on. And then they're like, all right, let's get back to the games, baby. And they showed Genji 2. And this is the whole giant enemy crab, real-time weapon switching. It's just a presentational issue. It's really silly.
I mean, the game is fine.
The game is actually not bad. I think it's much worse than Genji 1. And by the way, this is kind of emblematic of this time because Genji 2 has great image quality, actually, but they dropped it to 30 frames per second, whereas Genji 1 was 60. So right there, you've got like sort of a downgrade happening, which sucks. And then they show like the PSP rear view mirror thing. They show a little bit of Heavenly Sword, and they start to show a few more things, including some more fake demos. Like, was it like 6 days or something? I forget. Before eventually,
was that the exploding gas station?
Yeah. Eventually, though, after over an hour where you see nothing, basically, they finally reveal Uncharted Drake's Fortune from Naughty Dog. And that actually looks awesome in the footage. And that's the first game where I think there's like actual excitement about like, oh, dude, this looks great. It's not a super long trailer, but it's enough to get you like excited for what's to come. And that it needed that. And then they bring out Ted Price, which was originally like Project IG or something, but it was Resistance Fall of Man. And that also looks pretty good. And then we just start to get more other trailers. That's excellent usage of language there. They start to show third-party trailers. And one of the ones that always caught my eye was a game called Coated Arms Assault, which has the music used in the trailer is so memorable, and like the vision, like this weird, like net infested version of Japan just looked really cool. And then it was canceled. So in the end, they ended up showing plenty of interesting games along the way. And then Ken Kutaragi comes out in his like blazing white suit, looks like a safari suit. And he's like, talking about the system, and that's when they reveal the whole DualSense thing, or not DualSense, the 6-axis, where they have it on the table, and like it's like, oh, but it has a secret, and they pick it up, and it's like playing Warhawk, which, by the way, the water still looks great in that footage. But yeah, it's like, hey, we've got motion controls just like the Wii.
But they don't mention that they remove the rumble. Probably at that point.
Not yet, I don't think. That became a big thing, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because they took the Rumble out for this reason, which doesn't even make sense. But
it was like a patent problem, right?
Oh, right. It was a patent issue. It was a legal issue. And they tried to make excuses for why they didn't do it, but it was actually just a legal issue. We've talked a lot about it, but that was the E3 stuff in a nutshell. It was not good for Sony because when they dropped the big $599 at the end, everybody groaned. And it was just like, this is the moment where I believe Microsoft staffers were like in the back, literally like jumping and cheering. Like for them, this was like one of the greatest things that had ever happened to their company.
Because it was like the reverse of like the 2013, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So this was a big moment. But before we continue, let me drop a few more things that happened in Q2 on you. Just some games that came out. All right.
Sure.
So Tomb Raider Legend finally released. This is important. This was Crystal Dynamics' first original shot at Tomb Raider. They took over the franchise after Angel of Darkness failed miserably, right? Core design was shuttered. They took over the series. This was their first attempt at it, and it was good. You know, I think it was genuinely a very good game, and we got it on Xbox 360 as well, which at the time it looked very next gen. In retrospect, I think the PS2, Xbox, etc. version looks a lot visually better because, you know, 360 is just normal maps everywhere. But the 360 version had a weird secret. If you run it at 480p, it eliminated the slowdown that you got at 720p. This was the first game I realized this on. And it's something that would continue throughout the generation.
Like so many different games.
Yep. A couple other games. Rockstar Games presents Table Tennis. Very, very cool. Yeah. First test for the new engine of the next generation. I liked the game a lot. Very simple, unpretentious, but very awesome.
Out of left field release from that.
Very much.
Like that and Bully are the ones that are kind of surprising.
Yeah,
from them.
Absolutely. We also got Hitman Blood Money on multiple platforms, but I played it on 360. That was really cool. Famously, it had that New Orleans scene with gigantic crowds, like literally hundreds of people in it, and it worked even on the PS2. So it was super neat to see it. There was MotoGP 06 as well, which is not bad. But then on last gen systems, we got a lot of good stuff. Ace Combat Zero, awesome game. We got the US version of the was it Kaido Battle? One of the Kaido Battle games, maybe, where they called it Tokyo Extreme Racer Drift.
Okay.
We got Dreamfall, The Longest Journey, a sequel to an awesome adventure game. So The Longest Journey was very beloved. Dreamfall was the 3D sort of follow-up to it, which I did play at the time.
And that's on Xbox also, original Xbox, isn't it?
I believe it is.
Yeah,
yep,
I have
PC and Xbox. It's a pretty cool game. Try, you might like this one, Odama.
I believe it or not, I've actually never played it, but that's the one that came packaged with the mic, right? The GameCube microphone.
It did.
Is it like a pinball game or something?
It's a pinball game set in like sort of like it's like pinball war. Like what if you combined Kessen with pinball? That's what you got here. That's what this is, and you use the microphone to like shout commands. The mashup everyone wanted.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. It's super weird, but cool.
I should try it sometime.
You should. Polyphony Digital released Tourist Trophy, which was their sidestep from the Gran Turismo series about bikes.
Interesting. I never heard of that.
They adapted their very cool technology that they did for the drivers, the animation system, into a bike game, and it worked. We also got Mother 3 in Japan, which was cool, which people would beg for years for, and
still are.
Official
still
Western release.
Yep.
Still begging.
The bane of Nintendo of America.
But there's a fantastic, like flawless fan translation for that. I feel like one of the reasons they never released it is because I think Nintendo knows they could never do it better.
Yep, I agree. We got Outrun 2006.
Oh. Amazing
on
game.
Xbox, PS2, and other platforms.
I want to say it's like maybe better than the first Outrun. I mean,
I
would say that
I agree.
Better than Outrun.
I think it is. I agree. The thing about this one though is that this was actually ported to PlayStation 2.
Yeah,
and
PSP. That's the version I have actually, because the
PlayStation 2 version is so much better. It was done by Sumo Digital.
Oh,
it's beyond what I thought at the time was possible, because the original Xbox game takes advantage. The arcade board, it uses the Chihiro arcade board, which is Xbox based. Lots of pixel shader stuff in there, things that the PS2 cannot do.
Yeah.
Sumo found ways to simulate all of that stuff. And it looks so darn close to the Xbox version. It's scary. It's really nuts. Even the water, they found really weird ways to sort of simulate pixel shader style water on a PS2. And it just looks great. It's a stunning version.
Is 2006 on the Xbox version, is it kind of a downgrade? Because I feel like I heard somewhere, it might have been from you, saying that Outrun 2 on the Xbox like ran really good, and then 2006 on the Xbox doesn't run nearly as good.
No, it runs fine. There's a few visual effects that were pared back a little bit.
Okay.
So I do think Outrun 2 itself still looks slightly better, but it's very close. Very close. So yeah, there's that. We also got Steambot Chronicles, which was cool. There was Winback 2. Sin from 1998 got its episodic release, as was hot to do at the time. So Sin episodes. It was the only episode that was released. Not that great, but it was interesting. We even got a new Armored Core game with Last Raven, which was neat. From Software was actually busy this year, as we'll find out soon enough. And the PSP also got a US release of Monster Hunter. We got the Gradius collection. We also saw stuff like Tomb Raider Legend and Outrun 2006, as I mentioned, being ported to the system. Yeah. It was really, really impressive.
I forgot Tomb Raider Legend was on PSP.
I know, and it's the full game. It's all there. It's very, very cool. DS though, the DS Lite hit the US.
Oh.
And along with it, we got Brain Age and New Super Mario Brothers, which were both gigantic successes.
Yeah, I mean, New Super Mario Brothers. I mean, I think people like look back on the new series. You know, this is the beginning of Nintendo's new branding, which is horrible, of course. But you know, it was 15 years since Super Mario World, so I was hyped as heck for this game. Because man, I was hungry for a fourth true Super Mario Brothers game, right? And you know, it's good, but I had a hard time reconciling and like admitting like how I felt about it at the time, because I beat it and I'm like, well, this is good. But I kind of felt like my muted reaction was just because I had played the original games on NES and Super Nintendo so many times, and they were just like so burned into my mind and so iconic to me that, you know, a game that I'd only just now played through one time, like couldn't compete with those memories. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, it's not a particularly good looking game. It's not a particularly good sounding game. The level design is fine. It plays well, but it is true that it doesn't really compare to the earlier games. But I was so hyped because I thought it was just a surefire, you know, this is going to be an all-time classic, right? But then
it's got Big Mario in it. He gets big and he destroys all the blocks.
Mega Mario.
They snap right off.
I think this game's legacy was not helped by just how much they burned the new Super Mario Brothers series into the ground by just doing it again and again and again without innovating basically at all.
Yeah, that and the wah wah.
Well, that's fun. I don't love it, but I appreciate the thought. I don't love it, but it was an okay idea.
This is kind of blowing my mind because, you know, I always thought that I kind of got back in the games with the 360, which, you know, like after I saw Gears of War, but I did get a DS Lite on day one. I had it pre-ordered. So I guess that comes down to the fact that I was, you know, taking the subway a whole bunch. So I was playing, I guess I was like using a Game Boy Micro a bunch at that time. And I was like, I'm going to get a DS Lite because this seems like there's a lot of cool things. And I got it with Brain Age, I think, and Animal Crossing Wild World.
That's interesting. So you were already kind of back into this. You just didn't realize.
Yeah. Well, I mean, playing games on the subway gave me like an excuse to just, you know, like to buy something like that because it was just easier to take portables around.
Yeah. I miss that era of clamshell portables because they're the only ones that I ever felt comfortable putting in my pocket. Because I was not going to like just like shove an exposed screen into my pocket, you know?
You know what else was not dead during this year though? Arcades. They were almost dead. But I thought I'd rattle off a few games that came out this year in the arcade because it's kind of interesting in retrospect. We got a sequel to Afterburner with Afterburner Climax, which is incredible.
Incredible. And
absolutely
got digital releases on 360 and PS3 that are basically arcade perfect. Maybe not as high a resolution, but they're unfortunately they've been delisted at this point, long delisted at this point. But man, I love Afterburner Climax. I bought on everything possible that I could play it on at the time and got all of the achievements and trophies in it every time.
And you know what? All of this is Afterburner Climax was running on Sega's brand new Lindbergh system.
Right.
Which was actually kind of comparable. It was I think it was actually less powerful than a PS3, but it was like a Celeron 2.8 gigahertz system with similar amounts of memory, but it was a very good fit for this generation of consoles, which is why the ports are so good. Others, Taito released the 4th Battle Gear game. I don't know if you guys know the Battle Gear series, but I love it. It's awesome. It's not super well known, but it's a lot of fun. It's basically like some Toge style action, racing mountain courses and all this. Very, very fun. Good music. Always fun to play. But they also put out Half-Life 2 Survivor.
Yeah, I'm looking at this entry here, and like I was trying to reconcile this because like you're kind of blowing my mind here. This is not a thing I've ever heard of.
Oh,
what is this? How could I have not heard of a Half-Life 2 game?
Oh, so I want you to imagine a Half-Life 2 game where you have what is it? It's like a flight stick on one hand and then like another like lower, like it almost looks like a throttle, but you rest your hand on this other. It's like a dual stick game with like two weird looking controllers, and you're basically running through these environments from Half-Life 2, almost like a rail shooter to some degree, where it's like they rebuilt levels of the game to be like a rail shooter almost. And you're like, it's got like big like target icons and stuff in there, and you're shooting down Combine soldiers and working your way through, getting points. There's arrows pointing the way. It's like, what if you took the Half-Life 2 concept and made it more arcadey, is what they've done here.
Are there any ports of this? Like I can't believe I never knew there was a Half-Life 2 arcade game. This is crazy to me.
It's even got a pedal system and all this. It's super weird, dude. And a big, colorful, crazy HUD. So yeah, it exists. It's a real thing. It's funny though. It doesn't actually run that well. So like the hardware is not like that capable, but still, Half-Life 2 was still a big deal, even, 2 years later. It was only, a little over a year later at this point.
Still a big deal.
Yeah, it is. To me. So that's funny. We also got Metal Slug 6, which looked pretty dated at the time, but it was interesting that it was made.
Is Metal Slug 6 Thomas Wave?
It is a Thomas Wave, which is basically Dreamcast derived.
Right.
Time Crisis 4 from Namco, which would eventually get a PS3 port. Then we had some more Lindbergh action with Virtua Fighter 5, Virtua Striker 2006, and Virtua Tennis 3. VF5 actually played in Japan in 2005 at the location test in Shinjuku.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that it was that old at this point, because I mean they just came out with a new iteration of Virtua Fighter 5 like
that's because
4 months ago.
So good. It's virtually perfect. It's an amazing take on
I've heard that Virtua Fighter 5 in Japan is like Street Fighter 2 all over again, just in terms of popularity and cultural impact.
It's pretty sacred. It's a very important game and a very well-made game. So, and it still looks great. But that, my friends, is basically quarter 2. Let's get into quarter 3. I popped a quarter in. We're ready for a third round. Let's do it. So this is the summer months. This is like July, August, September. But there's still some cool stuff that happens during this time. First of all, From Software goes nuts on the Xbox because we get not just one, but two games right away on the system. We got Enchanted Arms and Chrome Hounds. Enchanted Arms is whatever. It's interesting that they made it. It got a PS3 port eventually, but Chrome Hounds, this was fun. This was a spin-off sort of thing. Like, From Software was known for Armored Core at this point, right? And there was new Armored Core coming. Chrome Hounds is not Armored Core. It's much slower. It's like, what if From Software made a MechWarrior game, is what it is. And what was awesome about this was the Xbox Live Online play. And as a result, this turned out to be a really cool game that I played a lot in that summer. It's been a while since I've jumped into it, but it was a big deal. And this was right around the time when, before From Software would really take off. You know, obviously Demon's Souls is the big game, but From has been making so many games at this point. They were everywhere on PS1 and PS2. They were spreading out more. They had done some games on the original Xbox famously, but they were all in on the 360, of course. And this was one of their first games. It was very cool.
They tend to be relatively early, like even in these eras. Like they tend to be putting out lots of games early on lots of platforms.
I mean, yeah, and I mentioned earlier they put out an Armored Core game on the PS2 just like a couple months prior.
Yeah,
and then they had two games. For the 360,
I mean, they have always had like a surprisingly large development capacity, even before they hit it big with Souls.
It's pretty crazy, I gotta say. Yeah. People were just getting psyched for Ninja Blade, though, which was the other big From Software game coming to 360 soon. In addition, that summer we got Prey, which was a game. This is an interesting one because Prey was originally announced after Duke Nukem 3D to compete with the original Quake, and it was 3D Realms' take on the full 3D shooter with sort of a portal system, and it was hyped along with Duke Nukem Forever. But obviously, it did not come to fruition during that period. But it eventually did end up getting made with help from Human Head Studios, the guys behind Rune Viking Warlord, I think it was called, and 3D Realms. And they finished the game, and it runs on the Doom 3 engine, and it's super cool. It is the game that played with scale, where, like, I remember the demo came out first, where you're in a room at like human size fighting monsters, and you go into a portal, and all of a sudden you're on like a little sphere. You're like, why am I in this giant? Well, it felt giant. It felt like you're on a spherical world, and you look out of the sphere and you realize it shrunk you down to the size of like an ant on this giant, what now giant sphere, which was actually like a just like in the lab. It was like, you know, the size of a human head, and like one of the enemies you'd just been facing comes up, and he's like a 1,000-foot giant now, perspective wise, and you're just like, whoa. And there's levels where you walk through portals, and now you're on the ceiling, or you're walking up the walls, and there's like these weird walkways everywhere, and it's like it plays with just your sense of size and position in the levels in a really fun way, and it famously has just this awesome beginning to the intro where you're like, your main character is named Tommy, and he's a Native American, and he's basically hanging out in this bar at the beginning with his grandpa, who's like worried about something happening there, and his girl, you'd like defend your girlfriend who's like working behind the bar, and like they've got a jukebox in there, like you got like Barracuda playing from Heart on the radio or whatever. Cat Scratch Fever comes on, like Ted Nugent, this kind of stuff. Like, and then I believe that what was also featured in Ripper 10 years earlier was Don't Fear the Reaper from Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh yeah, right.
Comes on as like an alien abduction occurs. An alien abduction occurs. The bar's roof gets lifted off, and everything gets sucked out, and you're trying to hold on for dear life, and you get pulled up into this weird alien ship. And like this whole flyby sequence shows like people getting mutilated. You don't know what's going on. Your girlfriend and your grandpa are next to you being pulled through this weird assembly line nightmare, and your brain just doesn't understand what you're seeing. And it was just, that made such a cool impact at the time. And it launched on 360 along with PC. And unlike the Quake 4 port, it actually ran okay.
Interesting. So it must not have done very well because they rebooted. Like, I guess they have a whole other Prey game that they would do on the next generation.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's a whole different situation. With that company was making a very cool looking sequel, and then they got shut down, and then Bethesda took the IP, and it's crazy stuff. But
there's no relation between the game,
right? Another thing I remember though is they have the radio host Art Bell.
Oh,
he did
nice.
voice acting for the game,
Coast to Coast,
and and it's the radio show Coast to Coast AM playing, and at various times you see like when you're on the alien ship, it's all organic and weird with like futuristic looking stuff, but sometimes they suck pieces of the world in. So you'll see like a corner of like a store that's like human, but just like jammed into this weird organic thing, and you'll find like a radio there with like a scratchy broadcast, and they're talking about what they see of the alien invasion from the ground. And you're hearing Art Bell like talking about it in the serious manner while you're going through the alien ship. And it was also a game that had this weird death thing where like when you die, you get warped into this strange like netherworld like instantly, and you kill like these weird spirits in there because of your Native American heritage, I guess. Right. And you're able to basically plane walk and come back into reality.
That's so
cool. If you've not played it, you got to check it out.
Yeah,
I recommend it. I recommend
it's very expensive these days either.
No. Give it a shot. It's super cool. But man, that's just. I mean, there was more, dude. 360. I'm talking so much about this because there's a lot to talk about. We got 99 Nights.
Is that the 1 Million Troops game, or am I confusing it with something else?
But that's the original. That was the sequel that he talked about. This is the original.
Right.
Mizuguchi-san from Q was involved, even weirdly enough. Right. That came out. We got Bomberman Act Zero, famously, which we played at your house last time,
or attempted to play.
Right. That's not
much of a video game, I have to say. I expected little, and I got less than I expected.
We also got the first Saints Row, which would spawn a very big franchise for a while.
Did it have like its kind of like
pretty
goofy,
janky,
over the top vibes at that time?
I don't think the first two like really had.
It had a little. The goofiness came from what the player did, not so much the characters. The characters played it straight, but there was a lot of goofiness in what you're doing. Like I remember in Saints 2, like there's missions where you're like just throwing dudes into the wood chippers and stuff like that. Like this is like his visual humor. You're like, okay, this is extremely.
Like they're letting
stupid,
me do this
stuff
that other open world games don't let you do.
Right. Exactly. There was also the original Just Cause released, and this is an interesting one, Dead Rising, which is huge for Capcom.
You have written on the tiny text edition or tiny text
discussion.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I don't want to get into the details of Dead Rising right now because there's too much to say. But the one thing that sticks out from 2006 is when this hit. I don't know if you guys remember it. A lot of people were still playing games on SD televisions.
That's me. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Dead Rising took advantage of HD resolutions by using a lot of small text, and specifically the objectives written in the corner of the screen in the HUD used the small text. Capcom missed the fact that not only do SD televisions not have the resolution necessary to resolve this text, but they were displaying it like in a squished letterboxed format. So you're losing even more. So they letterboxed it and displayed it, and all of a sudden most people could not actually read the text. And if you bought like one of the arcade edition 360s, the cheaper model that only came with the composite video cable, you were even more screwed. You weren't going to be able to read that text.
No Xboxes even supported HDMI at that time. Yeah,
they did not yet. Exactly. You had to use component video cables with an HD TV or VGA.
I would have been playing in composite.
So Capcom's statement on this was basically like, I don't know, buy an HD TV.
Yeah.
Like, because there's nothing they can do. Like, that's the way the game was designed, and it was kind of too late. And even though patches were starting to become a thing because of the connected nature of the system, they had to be kept very small because of the lack of a hard drive in many 360s. And, developers weren't like accustomed to patching in major features back then. Right. And thus it just remained this way. So yeah, that's the 360 world.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into the details on too many of these, but I do want to list off a few more last gen games as well as handheld games that were hitting during this period. In Japan, we got Persona 3. People didn't know it at the time, but this was going to be huge for Atlas and change the state of RPGs, I would say. Very, very big game, but that didn't come out to the US until 2007. We got Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, a very underrated game, I think.
I agree.
It's just fun to play. It doesn't necessarily feel like modern third-person shooters, but it does its own thing in a way that still feels very smooth and enjoyable to play, I think.
It also has an amazing Masashi Hamauzu soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Like really, really, really good soundtrack. And the Japanese version had like online support and mouse support.
Right.
Wow.
Which they removed. I think it could also be installed to the hard drive if you had a PlayStation 2 hard drive, if I recall.
I did have a hard drive because I played FF11.
But maybe just the Japanese version. I can't remember.
I don't remember that.
But it's something sticking out. We also got Xenosaga Episode 3, which I did buy on day one, with the lenticular cover, no less. The best Xenosaga game.
I just want to say that Xenosaga Episode 3 is like the first game that I ever like reviewed in front of a camera.
Whoa. Really?
Yeah, because I had started my job at the college TV station where I had graduated from, and I was there for many, many years. And the students wanted to start like a entertainment show. And I said, okay, but no one's allowed to talk about video games except me. And so that show did not last very long, but I did do a very rambling review of Xenosaga Episode 3 for this short-lived college TV entertainment show. It was probably pretty bad. I've tried to see if I could find it, but I don't think it probably does not exist in this world anymore, unfortunately, or fortunately, perhaps. But yeah, Xenosaga 3 and Dirge of Cerberus always stayed out to me because they were like the first two video games I bought like when I was like living on my own in an apartment for the first time.
Like I mentioned, I had that plasma TV, so I was still playing PS2 games on that, but this was before we had any idea about like external scalers being viable.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the XRGB 3 existed at that point.
Right.
But that was for like VGA monitors. Mm-hmm. I also imported Rule of Rose back then. Because it was, and Okami, both of which came out during this period. Rule of Rose was really weird. I had no idea that it would become so expensive eventually, but I did buy it on day one.
Is the Japanese version expensive too?
Yep. Not as much as the US version, but still quite a bit.
What was Okami Q3 in the US as well? Was it September?
They were all, it was slightly later, but they were all 2006.
Okay, because I mean, I remember I didn't buy Okami like day one, and then I kind of felt bad about it because like Clover Studio was closed down, I believe in October. My memory is it was October because I was like, dang, that's so sad. And I kind of felt bad. Like, I felt like I'm part of the problem. I didn't buy Okami. And so, like, I went and literally bought Okami that day when it was announced Clover was closed. And it was kind of a mistake because I thought this was just going to be kind of a relatively short game and I could easily beat it before Final Fantasy 12 came out. And, something people who haven't played Okami should know is the game tricks you into thinking it's over twice. And we weren't used to like 30-hour action games at that time. So it was...
It's a bit of a Dragon Quest VII in some ways.
Yes, it goes on way too long, but you might enjoy it more if you know going into it. It's a pretty long game. It was very unusual for action games to be that long back then.
Beautiful though. Absolutely
beautiful game. Oh, incredible soundtrack. I mean, the soundtrack I think is the best thing about it. But yeah, it's gameplay wise, I'm a bit iffy on it.
Okay. That year also, Tri-Ace delivered Valkyrie Profile 2.
I've not played a lot of it, but it's like one of the best looking games on the system. I mean, it's got some really good depth of field effects and does widescreen 480p very well, and even 1080i
in the Japanese version.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they did a fake HDR style pipeline.
Right.
HDR rendering, not display-based HDR, but like internal like HDR. They came up with a solution for that on the PS2 to get like full like tone mapping and all. It was wild what they were doing back then.
Tri-Ace was doing like the coolest PS2
crazy tech.
Like, especially like,
and it was all 60 FPS,
especially later in its life. Like, they were doing insane stuff,
completely
on PS2.
Nuts. So PS2 really big during this time. PSP also got some good stuff. We got Tekken Dark Resurrection, which was an awesome, like it was up there with Ridge Racer in terms of like, I can't believe I'm seeing this on a portable system. It was like the full Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection game on a portable system. There was that port of Valkyrie Profile 1 to the PSP, which is so. We got Ghost and Goblins, the new Ultimate Ghost and which Jeremy Parrish famously hated.
Yeah, I gave it a 2, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think I like it, but I understand his complaints. But I think most of his complaints were addressed in the Kai version, which was released in Japan. Goku Makaimura.
It plays more like Kai. A traditional like level progression and stuff like that.
Exactly. That's the one to get.
Yeah.
And then freaking Loco Roco, which, I love Loco Roco. It's so cute. The music is so wild and catchy. It's just a weird, neat looking game. 60 FPS. I imported it and even got the little cloth bag that came with it that I still have today. What a fun little game. You can see here, there's a few games that came out on DS. Why don't you share those?
I mean, well, I see you wrote Rhythm Heaven. Not for me. I have 0 rhythm, but obviously that's a game that has a lot of hardcore fans. Star Fox Command, I think, is actually a pretty underrated game. It's actually got a really interesting strategy element that was kind of revived from Star Fox 2, which still was not officially released in any capacity at the time. And I think is actually significantly better than Star Fox 2.
Well, this was the same. They brought back those same people, right? They brought back like the Argonaut.
Dylan Cuthbert was involved in everything. So yeah, I think it's actually a really cool game. Sometimes the encounters are a bit repetitive, but the overarching thing is the strategy element, which I think was really well done. Mega Man ZX, I've not played those too much, really. I really liked the Zero games on GBA.
This is basically the follow-up to the Zero games.
Yeah. And then Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. I guess they released in Japan, which that ended up kind of being my re-entry point to Pokemon after having skipped everything after Pokemon Blue. And hold on a second, John. You're writing something that's kind of blowing my mind here.
Don't reveal it yet. You see what's written at the end there.
What is this about?
All right. 2006, Q3, marked the public release of a little thing called Roblox.
How is this 2006?
That's so wild.
How is this 2006?
It is something that these guys were trying to do for years up to that point. It is not a new thing. They worked very hard to bring this. David Baszucki and crew. They were trying to make this community-based game thing that you would play online with people, and that turned out to be Roblox. And this is apparently when it really officially launched in 2006. So Roblox has been with us for 20 years.
I don't think I'd ever heard of Roblox until 6-7 years ago.
I mean, it's a big deal.
And this is before Minecraft even, right?
My son does play it. He's really into it.
Both my kids play it too.
We know there's there's definitely some bad stuff with Roblox to think about, but I'm just noting that it is a very, very big thing with kids. Recently I saw reported that Steam had a concurrent user record broken where 42 million something users were playing stuff on Steam simultaneously. All of Steam, right? Roblox has had upwards of 47 million concurrent users
playing one game.
Well,
not just one game, but Roblox is like multiple.
Well, no, it was
grow a garden.
Grow a garden.
Grow a garden. Yeah. So, but I don't know if that was just grow a garden. I think that was including everything. But it's just interesting how Roblox as a platform has had more users than Steam as a whole, as a platform, which shows just how secretly big this really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a wild thing to think about, but it is a big deal, Roblox, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So,
and it's crazy. I had no idea that it's been around for that long as well. I mean, and you said they were trying to get this off the ground for years before that, huh? Like that's nuts.
This is where it started. Nobody knew just how big it would be.
Yeah.
But it sure did become a huge thing. So yeah, I actually made a note of this later, but this was also the year that Riot Games was founded, who would go on to make League of Legends, which is another game outside of our wheelhouse, but it's freaking huge. So
yeah, I do remember a lot of people playing it around, in the years after this.
Oh yeah, lots of League.
Yeah.
But that gentleman wraps up our look at Q3. So what do you say we get into the final segment of the show? We toss in 4 quarters. This is an expensive game at the arcade, but we're going to do it. 4 quarters in the machine. Let's go.
Let's do it.
I got to go to the bathroom.
Q4 time, gentlemen. Let's do this. It's time to finish this up. 2006 coming to an end. And we're going to start with a big one. You ready? Mattel, known for the Intellivision, released decades earlier, is back. In 2006, they launched their next-generation console known as the Mattel Hyperscan. Equipped with a next-generation CD-ROM drive, 16 megabytes of RAM, and a powerful system on a chip, the Hyperscan allows you to scan your cards into the game. You play into the game for real. If you like series such as Ben 10, Marvel things, and space wrestling, and very, very, very long loading times, this is the console for you. Gentlemen, have you played the Hyperscan? Do you know what this is?
Have you?
I know the name, but I have never...
Yeah.
I've never heard anything other than the name.
I already know a lot more about than I've ever known before.
So Mattel really tried this. They launched what looks like a cheap, crappy toy. It's like $70, made of like really brittle red plastic that flips open, like literally opens. So you got 2 halves. It looks like a clamshell, but it's like really cheap and weird looking. One side has a CD-ROM drive. The other, this thing that flashes red that you put your cards on to scan them. The games basically play into this idea that you have physical cards using like RFID that you scan in there and it does something in the game. It came with a game called X-Men. Have you ever heard of the X-Men?
I might have.
Maybe.
I might have.
The X-Mans? Yeah.
But these X-Mans, as they're called, it's a fighting game. And it looks like it was made to run in Adobe Flash in a browser.
Wow.
It also takes like 2 minutes to load.
each
is
round?
No, just the initial load. But there's plenty of loads in between as well. But the initial load is super slow. The whole, like everything I've seen on the system, I've seen it in person once. It's a total piece of garbage. I don't know what they were thinking. It also has composite video cables like embedded directly connected to the motherboard running out the back.
Wow.
So
cool.
That's all you get is composite video in the year 2006. Yeah. Games shipped on CDs. There's maybe like 6 games. It was a flop. I'm afraid that the Intellivision name the Intellivision legacy did not save them here. But also in September 2006, our boys at VTech came out with the V Flash Home Edutainment System, which is an educational system, kind of like a next generation Sega Pico, if you will.
Yeah. Just what
that didn't
everyone's
seem to go anywhere,
for, right?
Yeah. So the point is that there was more to this year than just the PS3.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the
Wii,
start, you were talking about, all these. We were at the end of the era on failures like Engaging Gizmondo. So here's the next wave.
Yeah.
Here's the next wave. Failed even harder, baby.
Both of these just like completely dead on arrival.
Yeah. I mean, the VTech thing, it's an educational thing. I mean, it's hard to argue whether it failed or not.
It's
right?
targeting
Like,
a different audience. Like, I don't know what the measure of success is there.
Hyperscan, though, it's this idea of like, what if we can sell cards to like stupid consumers and also sell them CDs? And like, apparently, like, because it failed so bad that they didn't even release all the cards necessary to get all the content out of some of the games.
Oh, wow.
So like, it's just like locked behind the lack of existing cards. So bad stuff. But guess what? There was actually good stuff happening during this time, obviously. Before we talk about the system launches, let's throw down. Xbox 360 got an XBLA version of Luminous, which is pretty neat. The PSP launch game, it's not quite as good. Not quite the same, but it's a pretty nice version. We also saw the release of Phantasy Star Universe on PlayStation 2 and the 360.
And I never played those, despite being a huge PSO fan.
This one kind of went under the radar, and I never quite got why. Soundtrack is incredibly good. Again,
are they kind of like more single player but MMO style?
No. It's like more PSO basically, but it's got its own idiosyncrasies, of course. But yeah, not one I have a lot of experience with. We got a new Need for Speed with Carbon that released on 360. Another upcoming system, as well as PS2 and last gen and all that. Call of Duty 3, of course, stuff like that. We got DOA Extreme 2. It's like Extreme Beach Volleyball Return from Tecmo there.
You can jump on the blocks in the pool in this one, right?
Exactly. Some big ones though. That's worth mentioning. Gears+More came out in November, and this was a very important release for multiple reasons. First of all, it really put forth the promise. This was a game promised alongside the 360 leading up to launch. It delivered. Not only did it deliver, but it looked and ran better than most of the original demos. They did lose some features like the fully real-time shadows, but this was a mind-meltingly beautiful game at the time. The level of detail on display was genuinely impressive. And this is, I believe, the start of Epic's reign as like a big engine provider. Like the prior Unreal Engine, plenty of games used it, but this is, things really changed here with Unreal Engine 3. This was a showcase for it.
And you could tell when a game used that engine.
Oh yeah,
like they're like really chasing like that Gears+War look.
Oh yeah.
So the thing for me, like, I mean, I saw this at a friend's house and was just like completely blown away. And weirdly, like I knew that it looked good, but there was something about the motion when you do the roadie run and how the camera shakes that was the thing that blew my mind the most.
With motion blur even.
Yeah, that's what made it feel like it's the same kind of effect that found footage gives you, where it's like a found footage horror movie feels scary because it's got that shake to it that makes it feel more real. It feels like it was like shot by like real people.
They also really made an impact just like with audiences at large. Like they had a slowed down piano cover of Mad World.
Yeah.
Which Jerry was played into this commercial that showed like this, it kind of gave you an idea of what the environment of Gears+War was, right?
Yeah.
And it just like really, it was a really cool piece that played on television and sold the game well. It was kind of melancholy and it fit the tone.
Just the gameplay was like, so many other games utilize this same sort of gameplay going forward, with the waist high walls to duck behind and use as cover. It basically defined this entire generation, I would say.
It did. This was the pop and stop shooter. Chest high cover everywhere.
Yeah.
I always looked at this as like a horizontal platform game, where you're like moving between different pieces of cover, like just, there's something to it. And I know it got old and overused, but I genuinely think it's a very good mechanic and I'm glad we have it still today. And Gears was awesome with it. Like each of those chapters was so unique as well. It was super cool at the time, and it really, really, really showed off what Xbox 360 could do.
It was great for online play too. I played a lot of this online with friends from like forum friends from thenextlevel.com. We had a group that we'd get together and play a whole bunch. And this and Halo 3 are the only games that I really played heavily competitively online. Even though I was never very good, I like the team aspect of it.
Exactly.
Just a great game, and it holds up extremely well today.
It really, really does. Now, obviously, the performance is a bit rough from modern perspective, but I still think it was good stuff, really well done, and very, very, very important for the future of Epic in the end.
Yeah.
Another thing that happened this year, a very important thing, if you will, go back decades ago. The Dizzy games, very popular on the ZX Spectrum. The Oliver twins on the top of the world, British superstars, Andrew and Philip. What if they formed a company and then back in 1990, and then like almost 20 years later, they were handed the keys to the kingdom. They were given the Burger King license. That, my friends, happened in 2006 with the release of 3 games. Pocket Bike Racer, Sneak King, and my favorite, Big Bumpin'. So, along with possibly this year with Toyota's Yaris digital download game, these 3 games
and Doritos Dash was still later.
Oh gosh, yeah, that was later. The Doritos Dash. Oh boy,
Destruction.
So, developed by Blitz Arcade division of Blitz Games, these games were sold as part of a promotion in Burger King during the late season, like I think November and December. And these games were compatible with the Xbox and the Xbox 360. And it was this idea of like, what if we put out cheap, fun little games and sell them for cheap and like get into the gaming space. And you know what? In all seriousness, they're not great, but they're also not that bad.
Sneak King is kind of okay, I think.
Yeah.
They're very self-aware of what it is that they're doing.
Yes.
Exactly.
I mean,
the Oliver twins know what's up. I don't know if they specifically worked on these.
I mean, I remember when, I didn't have a system to play them on at the time, but I remember when they were in Burger King, and I don't know what you had to pay to get one, but like, were they only sold in Burger King?
I believe so. It was like $4 or $5 a piece, something like that.
It's kind of crazy that these games are still as plentiful as they are and as cheap as they are with that, if that was their sole means of distribution, because I mean, they're notable. People remember that this is a thing that happened, and you just want them in your collection. So I'm surprised there's actually enough stock of these for the price to have remained so low, honestly.
I agree, because you're right, just print the materials and everything. But I think the idea was like, it wasn't, they sold it for a low price.
Well, I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about like the retro market, though. I'm surprised the price hasn't risen, because you would think that the limited distribution would have led to them being more rare. But you're right, they were affordable back then too. So pretty cool.
Exactly. So and just this like Sneak King, the idea of like taking control of the king, and you're tasked with sneaking around delivering Burger King meals to hungry people.
It's funny because it really takes advantage of their promotions at the time, with this guy dressed up as a king, as the Burger King, but with the big plastic head, just like always smiling. It's super creepy.
And they know it.
Super creepy.
And
they know
unsettling. Yeah.
They know
it. So it's
just rolled with it.
It's so freaking weird, man, these games, I gotta say. And I think a lot of people liked them because they were also like cheap achievements. Everybody's into the
Yes,
Chivos
yeah.
back then. Like, I don't think they were worth the full 1,000. I think it was just like they were like 200 games, but
because
like
Xbox Live Arcade games were 200 at the time, and
right. So, but even though these were discs, they were still considered kind of small.
Are these the only dual Xbox and Xbox 360 discs?
I don't know. I actually do not know. I would love to know if there's others like that, because it is actually rather unusual to have a hybrid disc like that. Reminds me of the old Mac and PC days.
For some reason, I had always assumed that it was just running like in backwards compatibility mode or whatever.
No, they're visually enhanced.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's like legit versions of the game.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's the Burger King games. Great stuff. But there was more, obviously. Let me list some of the last gen stuff, because some of the other 360 games tie into the PS3, which I want to talk about separately. PSP actually had a really strong fall, I would say. You got Killzone Liberation, which is a really, really good top-down sort of quarter angle Killzone game. Very, very nice. You got GTA Vice City Stories. You got Death Jr. 2. I mentioned that because Death Jr. is one of the first games ever revealed for PSP. That's cool. We got Luminous 2. Got Every Extend Extra from the same crew. We got ATV Off-Road Fury Pro, which I'm a fan of those Rainbow Studios style games. Mortal Kombat Unchained. We got the PSP version of Gitaru Man. Gitaru Man Lives. We got Gunpei, which was a game designed for the Wonder Swan originally. I think Gunpei Yokoi, creator of the Game Boy, either worked on the idea or it was done as a tribute to an idea that he had.
Yeah,
I forget
that sounds
the details.
vaguely familiar.
But there was a from the same like it's not Q Games. There was 2 Q companies back then, but the one with Mizuguchi-san that did Luminous, Q Entertainment. This was their take on that. So it's basically Gunpei but stylish.
Because Q Entertainment would go on to do the Pixel Junk games, right?
No, that's Q Games
did the Pixel Junk games, right? Q Entertainment was Luminous.
Okay.
So we also got Sonic Rivals and then Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. So PSP, very, very packed. Other games, we talked about this. Sarugetsu Million Monkeys came out in Japan at the end of the year. We got the second Ryuga Gotoku game, so Yakuza 2, Guitar Hero 2, Final Fantasy 12 in the US. Guitar Hero,
that one was a big deal for me. FF12.
Yeah, those were big. Man, we don't have time to go into
I was
all the
so
details,
nervous about beating FF12 before the Wii came out, because FF12 and Twilight Princess.
It came out in Halloween.
Yeah, they were like day one games for me. So
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, the license board, baby.
Yeah.
This was also the fall where we got Bully from Rockstar, which was a huge deal. There was Tales of the Abyss US version, which is cool. There was the Scarface game, which some people seem to like it. But then October 11th, 2006, history would be made. IGN.com posted a review for a game. They gave it a 3. People quickly discovered this value is lower than Ubisoft's own Imagine Babies. What is going on here? The game in question,
I remember this.
God Hand from Clover.
God Hand.
Yeah.
God Hand.
How wrong they were.
Is an awesome game.
It is.
It is very weird, but it's very awesome.
It's hilarious.
And this review has gone down in history alongside the Edge magazine review of Doom as being one that just completely misses the mark.
Yeah.
But while that one had more nuance in it, this one is just like, I don't understand why the reviewer hated this game. So much.
This is the review in history that I resent the most, because God Hand went on to become a very pricey game. I still don't own it, and I would like to own it. But I saw this review, and it's probably one of the reasons I don't put a lot of stock into reviews now, because it's like, you know what? Sometimes people just they just don't understand the game.
But it's still his opinion. And my guess, if I had to weigh in, and this is pure conjecture, he was under a time crunch to review this game, possibly. and the game isn't easy. And because it's so weird and difficult, I could imagine someone getting very frustrated at certain points and then essentially like walking away from it like, screw this game. I don't want to play this kind of feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's possibly where this comes from, because he ends it with a verdict saying it's a boring, annoying, and frustrating game.
There's nothing boring about a game that you can spank somebody so hard and rapidly that they just fly 15 feet away from you after you finish them off.
I rest my case. So that's that. But the big elephants in the room here, console launches.
Oh, yeah.
This is when we saw the release of PlayStation 3 and the Nintendo Wii. PlayStation 3 is the system that I was gravitating towards at the time for day one. I actually got it 2 weeks after launch. I missed out on the initial launch because it did sell out. And I was not smart enough to pre-order at a spot where I could have gotten it on time, so I had to wait a little bit. But I was there roughly at launch, let's just say. This system was moderately well received at launch. There were some good things. I was very happy to play Ridge Racer 7. Resistance Fall of Man, I think, was really, really good. Everybody was hot on the MotorStorm demo. It's just a demo, but it was extremely cool at the time and looked amazing. I even picked up a copy of Genji Days of the Blade, and I did enjoy it. Not as much as Genji 1, as I mentioned, but, it was still there. But the problem with PS3 out of the gate is it had a lot of ports from Xbox 360, and nearly all of them were worse. Now, I want you to think about this. Call of Duty 3 comes out. It's the third mainline Call of Duty, but this one's done by Treyarch, who would end up becoming pretty important to the series. They had done the older, lesser games, not the mainline ones, but this was their first mainline game. Xbox 360 version, 60 frames per second. It actually runs a lot smoother than Call of Duty 2. Looks great, 60 FPS. PS3 version, 30 FPS. That's not good. This console costs upwards of $200 more than the 360. Hyped is like the most powerful thing ever. And you see games like that. You see Call of Duty 3 is worse. Madden also. To be fair, 360 Madden was also 30 FPS its first year. But again, they got it to 60 for this year, and the PS3 one was only 30. So there was a lot of these cases where a game on 360 was running at, like, say, a higher frame rate, and then you get on PS3 with either downgraded graphics or a lower frame rate, and it just wasn't good. The exception, of course, being Ridge Racer 7, which was derived from Ridge Racer 6, and Namco got that up to native 1080p at 60 FPS, which is pretty awesome. It
still looks gorgeous today.
I mean, just
still beautiful.
Incredible game.
But the PS3, I remember, I actually signed up for PlayStation Network as soon as I got it. I think I downloaded something, Blast Factor, I think was the first thing I ever downloaded from there, followed by the MotorStorm demo. The MotorStorm demo, famously, when you would highlight it in the XMB menu, would like blast that pendulum song.
So loud, yeah. The sound levels on those XMV icons were so unreliable. Like, the one I always think about is Double Dragon Neon. It's just so loud. Yeah, like that slap bass.
Dude,
yes.
Around this time, I bought my first, I have to admit, home theater in a box before I got into individual components. I bought an Onkyo system from the Florence Best Buy, and I liked it. But it was enough where, like, whenever this would happen, it would cause the neighbor to sometimes come down and be like, turn it down, dude. But yeah, so the PS3 though, I mean, what can I say? I also, though, another memory I have of PS3 is that the controllers, the initial 6-axis controllers, would have weird Bluetooth dropouts.
Oh, really?
Like they fixed pretty quickly, but like those very first run of controllers, sometimes would just miss inputs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It was
I remember
wild.
hearing about that.
It's really annoying. Obviously, they fixed that pretty quick, but still, it was a stupid thing to happen.
They just felt so cheap too. I felt like
very lightweight, very cheap.
Yeah. Without any like rumble motors in there, it just made them feel like like chintzy.
Can I ask you guys if I'm alone on this? Like, was it like surreal to you to be charging a controller over USB? I'm like, that's not power. USB ain't power. USB is data. Like that. This was weird. This was very strange to me.
Yeah, I can still think of that as being strange, but
like I don't know. Like I don't think I had a device that was just a straight up USB port that wasn't plugged into like a power brick. You just like plug it into the console, and this thing, the battery inside this thing is charging over USB. I didn't plug it into the wall. Like that was really strange to me. Like I almost like doubted the instructions. I mean, I didn't have a PS3 at launch, but like this, it took me a while to accept that USB charging is fine. It's okay.
And it doesn't help that the charging PS3 controllers is pretty annoying even now, because a lot of like you can't charge it just by hooking up to like regular like wall chargers. Even now, you have to like hook it up to the system. Like there's something about it that makes it like only charge, because you can't use because a charging cable and plug it into like a wall adapter or anything like that. It just won't work.
I did not know that, because I mean I got like the day after I got my PS3, I got like a Pelican like controller charger for it. And that's like what that's what I've always used to charge it. So I had no idea you can't just plug into USB.
Yeah, it's super obnoxious.
It was relatively early days for USB charging like that. That was a new thing to me. It was strange.
Interestingly, the PSP wouldn't get that until the PSP 2000 model the following year.
Right.
If you remember.
Right.
They added USB charging, but before that it was just for data transfer.
Yeah. So I did not know that power went over USB. I thought it was just data.
Sure, exactly.
At the time.
I will admit though, the 6-axis function, the game that sold me on it was that MotorStorm demo. Because playing in first person and holding like a steering wheel actually worked really well. I thought it played awesome that way. And so much so that I imported MotorStorm, which for whatever reason, it launched in Japan first in December 2006.
Wow. Okay.
It came out months later everywhere else. But the Japanese version is woefully incomplete in some ways. Like it's missing all the multiplayer functionality. Huh. And the menu stuff isn't really finished yet. Like it feels like a beta version of the game, even though the whole game, all the content is pretty much there. I didn't care though. I loved playing MotorStorm. It was such a thrilling racing game at the time. And I've done a whole DF retro on it, so I don't need to go into it here, but awesome game. But of course, it wasn't just about the PlayStation 3. There's this little thing called the Nintendo Wii. I admit, I'm not going to lie here. I was initially a bit of a downer on the Wii leading up to launch. It was one of those things where I was like, I want HD. Like these games don't look like, I don't know what to think about this. This little controller looks like a, I wasn't feeling it yet. But then I watched the GameSpot.com live stream where they unboxed the Wii and played it. And, even though Jeff Gerstmann was kind of dunking on Twilight Princess, there was still enough stuff in there that made me go like, I kind of want one of these now. And so I thought, well, it's launch night. Let me just drive up to one of these stores and just get one. That was not a smart move. I think you can understand.
You're not getting it. How long did you have to wait before you?
I got my Wii in like March or April the following year in a bundle deal. It was impossible to get.
It was crazy just how crazy people were for it. I mean, I didn't even buy it until probably late 2007, or maybe even 2008. I mean, when did Mario Galaxy come out? It was after that.
It was like September 2007, I think. September or October 2007.
So I'm guessing it's probably March 2008 when I finally got mine.
Yeah, man.
But it was still impossible to get then.
Yeah.
Dude, that thing was like sold out ages.
Yeah, so I had mine pre-ordered. I mean, this was the first time I had ever had to like line up for a pre-order. Like there was, a date when GameStop was going to be taking pre-orders. And I don't remember exactly how far in advance of the launch it was, but I didn't go super early. I think it was early, but I probably went, I don't know, 7 a.m. or something. I wasn't going like overnight or anything. And I was, I don't know, maybe third in the line or something. So, yeah, I had no problem picking it up at midnight on launch day. I got Super Monkey Ball Banana, was it Banana Blitz? Is that the one on the Wii?
Banana Blitz.
Banana something. I got that, which actually
didn't that get like a remake on PS Vita? Maybe, I don't know.
I think it's the one that got a remake.
That's an original game.
It's the one that got a remake on like current consoles a few years ago.
Oh, right.
But anyway, so yeah, I got that, and that actually arrived in the store a little, like some third-party games. This happened with GameCube as well. I remember some third-party games came to stores earlier, so I was actually able to grab that, and then I got Twilight Princess, at the midnight launch with the Wii system, and I was I was very annoyed that I was going to have to play this, Zelda game that I was so hyped for in composite video and 480i.
Yeah, so I was going to ask about that.
Because
were you not able to get the...
So the component cables were only available at first directly from Nintendo. And I actually had them pre-ordered ahead of time, and but because Nintendo tended to do their launches on Sundays back then, like not just hardware, but games too. Nintendo games came out on Sundays at the time. UPS was coming with that on Monday. And this was so hugely important to me to get these gosh darned component cables that when Monday comes around and I, get home from work and this package was not delivered, I go to the UPS facility, which was, just a few miles from my house or from my apartment at the time.
Right.
And okay. I actually go into the office and say, I need this package. Can we it was not delivered today, but it was marked as on the truck for delivery. And the lady literally actually took me back to where the trucks are and got it off the truck for me and gave it to me.
Whoa.
This was very important to get my component cables. I couldn't, I started Zelda on Sunday, but I could not stand to play another minute of it without those component cables. I needed this game to be represented as full glory. So yeah, I
wanted to see that dither.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. So I was pretty into it. Super Monkey Ball, that game was very difficult with the motion controls, but I did somehow beat it. And Wii Sports,
I bet Joe hates that one.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Redifer from GameSack, I bet he hates Banana Blitz.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really go back to it today, but at the time, this was still a novelty, right? It was a novelty to be controlling games in this way, and the pros and cons hadn't really settled in, and I had a very open mind about what the Wii was trying to do, especially in regard to pointer controls. I mean, pointing was done very well, and actually that was. My parents actually came to me for Thanksgiving that year. They didn't live close to me at the time. So I was able to kind of do the whole, introduce your family to, the expanded audience that Nintendo wanted to do. I was able to show them Wii Sports and stuff. And I don't remember too much of their reaction to it. I think they thought it was neat. They never got Wii themselves or anything though. But yeah, it was exciting. I want to say also, WarioWare Smooth Moves.
Smooth Moves
came out in December.
Oh.
So
So
yeah, there was stuff to play. Zelda was pretty cool. I think the Wii went on to be a very good system, and controversial opinion of mine. I think more of Nintendo's core franchises had better entries on the Wii versus the GameCube. Zelda and Metroid were better on GameCube, but otherwise, like, they brought back freaking Punch-Out on the Wii. But I'm getting off topic. We could have a Wii discussion some other time. But
although there is something I wanted to mention about the Wii, and that's its launch lineup. When you think about what it represents, obviously you had the big games like Zelda, right? That Wii Sports bundled in. But the Wii launched with a lot of games that also appeared on other platforms. And this sort of answered the question a lot of people had at the time. And this is why this was such a left turn for Nintendo, was all of a sudden they're launching a new system that can't realistically run the games being made for Xbox 360 and PS3. Mm-hmm. So compared to every other generation, they were now out of step with the hardware requirements. But publishers were, they were still attacking it with that mentality of like, okay, we want this game on all these platforms. And so you had stuff like Call of Duty 3, you had the Cars game, you had Madden on there, Need for Speed Carbon, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, all these games showing up on the Wii, and every one of them had to be massively changed and re-engineered to fit the new hardware. And I thought that was like an interesting thing to see happen, just because it, you could see they were trying, they wanted to get those games in there, but clearly, something had to give. And over time, we'd see a bit less of that, I think.
It was definitely kind of a tough pill to swallow that Nintendo was, making this move that where their next system wasn't going to be that much more powerful than their previous one. And, they've remained out of step on power ever since. But in the long run, I think it's been a healthy thing for video games to have that lower power target. That's like, especially once the Switch came around, right? And they're like, we have to target this system. It's healthy for there to be like a more low end to kind of rein in the scope of games.
But importantly, we also got Happy Feet for the Wii as a launch title.
Oh, thank
which
God.
I assume you're super into. But yeah, that was the Wii, man. It was an interesting system. I did play it at launch. A friend of mine, Andrew, actually was smart enough to reserve it, and I did play the Wii at their house quite a bit. And I did admittedly really like stuff like Wii Sports. I thought it was quite fun. Earlier, there was one game though I wanted to mention very briefly here, because it tied into PS3 and everything, and it's Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. I am unapologetically a fan of the series, I admit. I was actually very hyped for this game. I really thought it was going to be a big deal, and it was supposed to have been a launch title for PlayStation 3, but it got delayed. It turns out that was probably a good thing, because I bought it on 360 instead, which it turned out to be significantly better on 360, but still very, very, very bad. That game, like, it's become a joke meme kind of thing now. People love to look back at it, but really we didn't know it was going to be like that.
It seemed like a new Sonic Adventure game.
That's what it seemed like. It was 60 FPS tried to be, and it looked like Sonic Adventure 3, and it was exciting. But I remember the first time I played, I played the demo actually and thought it was fine. But then when the final game came out and you started to see these loading screens between everything, I was like, oh no, this is not good. And it just continued to get worse. That game was an absolute crushing disappointment.
I have actually played through this game because it was a marathon stream. I wouldn't have played through it in any other context. And, that first level on the beach is just like so bad and so broken. And I don't know if it's just that over the course of the game, I just kind of got in sync with its idiosyncrasies or just accepted my fate. But like the game seemed to go from like virtually unplayable to like, okay over the course of the game. I'm not sure if it actually gets better. I think I just got in sync with it. But yeah, it's not good. And you and I, John, we did a PS3 versus 360 comparison of that one time, and the
boss fight with Silver.
It's no use.
Where I almost lost my mind.
It's no use.
It's no use. It's no use.
It really is no use.
Oh,
And the look, like
no
every NPC that you talk to, like that has like a quest for you, like has to do a long load into a conversation, and then a long load into like a tutorial level, and then a long load back to the conversation, and then a long load back to the hub world, where it's like, why was this not already in memory?
Dude, the whole thing was just a mess. It felt like they got every designer to like write their own programs for each portion of the game, and they all had to like load them separately. That's what it felt like, right?
Yeah.
Like literally, it felt like you were like loading up a bunch of different programs.
Yeah, there was no unity between these components.
Man, another game that came out during this period, I believe, was Tony Hawk's Project 8.
Mm-hmm.
And as a big Tony Hawk fan, I think this game is good and interesting, but it was a big disappointment because it was a big downgrade in terms of performance. Because the Tony Hawk series became all about 60 FPS during the PS2 era, and even the American Wasteland 360 version, which isn't amazing, it's still 60 FPS. Project 8 tried to up the ante with some new graphics technology, even though it did get last-gen ports, and they sacrificed the frame rate. It was much choppier. They tried to make it open world now, where like the individual areas were directly connected rather than like connected through loading tunnels. And that also didn't work well. And it let me down at the time for that reason. And it was another one where it was even worse on the PS3. So
yeah. And that just fatigue after yearly releases for so long.
Yeah. They pushed those guys too hard, and they just couldn't really keep up, and the game suffered, and it really hurt the franchise in the end, and that's a shame. Yeah.
And they're reinventing it so many times in those 8 years, right? It's just
exactly.
Crazy.
But that, gentlemen, is pretty much 2006 in a nutshell. I mean, there's still plenty of other stuff that we missed, of course. We can't talk about everything. Like the Game Boy Advance still had like ports of the Final Fantasy games coming out this year, which was cool. But yeah, this is pretty much 2006. I don't know. I think it was an awesome year. There's some ups and downs, but overall, it was a big year.
It's one of the ones that stands out in my mind the most.
Yeah. I mean, even though I wasn't playing games for a portion of it, where I wasn't following the industry for a portion of it, I'm amazed just how much good stuff there was during this time. Looking at the stuff that we've talked about today and just the things that happened.
Exactly. It's the things that happened and the effect that it had on the game industry, I think that really stands out.
Yeah, it was a turning point in a lot of ways. I think the things that happened this year are still felt today.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that when I was a kid, 2006 seemed like so far in the future, seemed like the future, everything was going to be crazy. And now that future is 20 years ago.
But I will say, though, the gaming of 2006 and what it started still kind of feels like the gaming of today. Like, but from 1986 to 2006 was like a monumental leap. Like games changed and evolved so much and so fast, right? But then 2006 to 2026, it kind of just feels like an evolution. Things got better, I would say. There was a lot of rough starts at the time, but like 2006 is kind of like where modern gaming kind of started in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, put the original Gears of War next to the Gears of War like remaster that came out last year, right? And it doesn't seem like nearly as big of a difference as like something that came out in 2006 that was a remake of something that came out in 1986. I can't even think of anything to like fit in there, but it would be such a huge jump at that point.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think we're going to leave it there. I didn't intend for this to reach 3 hours again, but gosh darn it, we did it. We did it.
It's our duty at this point.
It's our duty to report on the industry from this period, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been the DF Retro Super Show. Thank you everyone that made it this far. Thank you to our patrons for the amazing support, and thank you guys for joining me on this episode today.
Of course.
Heck yeah.
And of course, as always, we'll see you next time. That'll be in 2 weeks. Look forward to it.